October 30th, 2024 morning session of the Portland City Council. Keelan, good morning. Please call the roll.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Maps.
Here.
Rubio. Here. Ryan.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and quorum. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Portland City Council. To testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance on the council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. Information on engaging with the council can be found on the council clerk's webpage. Individuals may testify for 3 minutes unless the presiding officer states otherwise. Your microphone will be muted when your time is over. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony should address the matter being considered. When testifying, state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. If you are a lobbyist, identify the organization you represent. Virtual testifiers should unmute themselves when the council clerk calls your name. Thank you.
All right, first up is communications. I understand 918, 919, 920, and 921 all want to come up together, which is fine. Keelan, please read the names.
Thank you. Request of Oscar Edwards Hughes to address council regarding healthy communities. Item 919, request of Nikisha Nathan to address council regarding healthy communities. Item 920, request of Lily Burnett to address council regarding healthy communities. And item 921, request of Julia Irby Burnett to address council regarding healthy communities.
Great, thank you. I understand there may be a substitution in terms of the names. You're here. I'm sure we all want to hear what you have to say, so I will allow it. But I also want to make an announcement, which is starting on January 1st, under new council rules, substitutions will no longer be allowed. So just be aware of that. But we really appreciate your being here today, and thank you in particular for juggling the child as well. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. So we've got
Yeah.
I'd
12 minutes collectively.
We're good,
however you
okay.
wanna use it.
Mayor Wheeler, I'd like to ask if Lynn could take one of my 2 spots. I have a spot for me and
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
And I'd like to sub out with Celeste Ruiz.
All right, I already am lost,
You're good.
so 12 minutes to make your case. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'll start off. Good morning, Commissioner Mayor Lynn Felton, Argay Terrace resident. With the consideration of today's space TIF, it feels like Argay Terrace, Park Rose, and Sumner are once again at a generational pivot point. Will they return to the healthy, vibrant communities they were in the past? Or will the community's aspirations be blown away in the Portland political winds? We've been here before. We were annexed by the city in 1983. In 1986, then City of Portland Commissioner Earl Blumenauer worked on creating the Columbia South Shore Industrial Zone. What was river bottom soil and farmland became 2,800 acres of new industrial land for the city of Portland. As you all know, a city must have a certain amount of industrial land to meet economic growth predictions by state law. Development moved quickly after that. Homer Williams' dreams of the Pearl and South Waterfront followed, with the industrial land freed up because now it existed out there in that other Portland. That pattern still goes on to this day. When our community objected to the building of a Prologis diesel freight warehouse across the street from Park Rose High School, we were told industrial land is scarce commodity. It can't possibly be moved. So you can imagine our shock when we're listening to a planning commission meeting and we hear city planners talk about the Montgomery Park area plan and the industrial zoning being moved from there because market rate affordable apartments are going to be put in there. And it can be moved because there's a surplus in the Columbia corridor. That other Portland was the original farm-to-table movement of immigrant farms. That other Portland is where the mountains meet mid-century modern homes. That other Portland is not just an industrial zone, a blighted area out there somewhere near Costco. Which gets us to today's DIF districts. I have repeatedly heard from members of this council how the Josh agreement with Multnomah County has no success criteria, no benchmarks. Yet here we sit on the precipice of this council passing economic development plans that will lock up millions of City of Portland tax dollars, and these agreements have no success criteria, no benchmarks. We have community aspirational guidelines. What happens when the Central Leadership Committee runs headlong into economic opportunity analysis or traded sector plans? Commissioner Mapps, last week you asked about how does the affordable housing meet generational wealth goals? There is an amendment to be presented today. It's not too late. There can be more amendments to this plan. Metrics of success can be put in. There's still time. After all the wealth and political fortunes this area of Portland has created, don't we deserve more than a rushed agreement that lacks clarity? Don't we deserve to be more than a political pawn to put millions of dollars into nonprofits and developers' pockets for the next 30 years, a week before an election? We have been here before. How about this council recognizes those past harms and consider taking one step towards rebuilding trust with our community by delaying and amending the space TIF? Thank you.
Thank you.
A follow-up question.
Let's wait.
Okay.
I'm next. Hi, Mayor Wheeler and commissioners. My name's Lily Burnett, and I'm here with my daughter, Julia. I've been here a lot lately. I've been testifying on safe streets, the TIF, particularly the space TIF, and on the Prologis development across the street from our high school. But I wanted to take this time today. You're okay. to introduce you to Julia because she was 6 weeks old when the asbestos and ash rained down over our neighborhood after the Kmart burned down. And that forced me to get involved in an advocacy campaign that should have never existed. I should have been spending my maternity leave thinking about baby music class and tummy time and walks in the park, but instead we were buying air purifiers for every room in the house. We were not leaving the house, and our park was closed by Parks and Rec and DEQ. We were also spending time hosing down our car and lawn so that the asbestos ash wouldn't continue to float in the air. But my dream for the future of my community is for Julia to grow up and thrive in a healthy community with sidewalks and clean air and safe streets, with access to amenities like a grocery store, a library would be nice, restaurants and shops, a community center. These are all things we don't have. And at 17 months, she has nothing but potential and promise. She's incredibly social. She loves to climb, she babbles, she claps, and she would spend all day at the park if she could. So I'm asking, please protect her future and protect East Portland so I can get back to parenting.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, good morning, esteemed members of the City Council. My name is Celeste Ruiz, and I am a resident of our wonderful city and the Parkhurst neighborhood. Growing up in the apartment complex right behind the Kmart on Sandy Boulevard, it often felt like a far place from Portland. When the Kmart closed, we hoped for something positive, like a community center or a grocery store. And I remember being in my fourth period classroom when we heard the news that Prologis would be building a site where there would be 37 truck bays just 20 feet away from my house. When hearing this news, everyone in my classroom was shocked, but I was scared of what was going to happen to my family, my neighbors, people who walk their dogs, the air and recess, and the student athletes at the high school who play right in front of this building. A few months later, my family and neighbors woke up to pitch black smoke early in the morning. The Kmart burned down on Prologis' watch, covering my neighborhood with asbestos and ash. Park Rose is one of the top racially diverse schools in the state of Oregon. Expecting our diverse community to bear the consequences of more pollution and more cement jeopardizes our health and highlights deeper societal problems of environmental injustice. We are already burdened with large amounts of pollution from the airport, two highways, and nearby rail tracks, leaving with us higher rates of asthma and temperatures up to 20 degrees warmer than other parts of Portland. I have to cross a stretch of 122nd where 2 pedestrians have died in the last 2 years just to get to school like other students. The city and Prologis must withdraw the permit and start working with Park Rose on real protections for our health and safety. Many other students have written postcards sharing similar concerns. I believe through open dialogue and collaboration, we can find solutions that benefit our community. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts and concerns with you today.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioner Maps, Commissioner Rubio, Gonzalez, and Ryan. My name is Nikisha Nathan. I'm co-director at Neighbors for Clean Air. You've just heard, again, from people directly impacted by the development of the Prologis warehouse. Last week, I spent the day speaking with and hearing from students at Park Rose High School. Students who feel like their voices are not valued and have no impact. Students who asked my colleague and me, what's the point? The building is going up anyway. And students who ask, how can one person make a difference and what can we do to help? Please take note. These students are paying attention. They have no choice but to pay attention. One student wrote in a postcard on this issue, "This is important to me because I go to school just a couple of blocks away from the site, and I don't want to have to deal with the negative things that come with a truck warehouse, such as pollution and more traffic. I know quite a few people who agree with me. If other, fancier, less diverse communities don't have to put up with this, why are we any different? Why should we have to?" Right now, impacts to public health are not directly considered in designating lands for industrial uses. This has led to incompatible industrial zoning that continues to harm vulnerable communities. Not only do these communities face more pollution, but they are generally more susceptible to negative health impacts from that pollution due to socio-demographic factors and/or pre-existing health conditions. Economic opportunity analysis can and should include an assessment of public health impacts with economic opportunities near sensitive communities and establish safeguards for neighborhoods made vulnerable by historic practices. Environmental justice communities are not just a legacy from the last century. Decisions that you and your city staff continue to create environmental justice communities. It's long past time to switch it up. Plan for healthy communities. Ethan and Cassidy are here from Park Rose High School and would like to provide the clerk with the postcards now. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Maps, it looks like you're up first.
Sure, I want to
Before you-
thank.
Before you go away.
Yeah, I will, it'd be good if I could hold on to a couple of you. I want to thank all of you for coming in today. I've certainly heard your frustrations and concerns about the Prologis site. I think I also heard something new today, and I want to be sure I'm tracking what you're asking for. I think we heard some testimony today asking for some amendments to the space TIF. What is it? What, can you repeat for me what exactly you're looking for in that space?
Examples of possible friendly amendments for the space TIF
Yeah.
would be such things as metrics for economic growth. And when we hit those benchmarks, what are the metrics for the affordable housing so that it can go in coordinated dance? Since we all know if one outpaces the other,
Yeah.
then we have private capital problems at that problem, because then we repeatedly hear from people, which you can see in Park Rose, and investors, sorry, your demographics aren't good enough. Your demographics aren't where we're going to put our private capital, right? So both need to be coordinated. There needs to be stronger words for healthy communities, considering it's industrial and residential. We've experienced the nice aspirational words of the environmental justice in the Portland Charter. It proved to be ineffectual when it came up against economic opportunity analysis and land use decisions. We need strong, aspirations are nice, and I appreciate that this is a community-led agreement, but the realities are there's politics and there's land use, and those community members need to know more and need to have clarity about this agreement if we're going into a 30-year agreement. So there's benchmarks that are possible. There's amendments that are possible.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And I think in principle, I don't disagree with you, and I pledge to at least follow up with staff and other policymakers in the space to see if there's something we can do. I don't know if we can do it today, but I'll probably ask Donnie. Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Commissioner Maps, do we have any proposed amendments on home ownership that are
Well,
read today?
so I think the way the run a show is going to work right after comms is we'll go into the TIF districts. We have 6 separate plans to adopt. And then there is this, I think, another amendment which provides some guidance to the city administrator, which I think is 931. And frankly, as I think members of council and staff have insights into how we can refine this project, we've been putting that direction there. I don't know if that would make sense in the context of the request that we have today. So when we get to the next item, I'll call up Donnie and Mike to see if, number one, if perhaps we already have an evaluation framework, and at least help us think about how to think about some of the requests that we heard today.
Well, I think I followed that, and I'm reading the language of 931, which is really talking about the set-aside policy. I'm still slightly unclear if home ownership goals are a part of that or
I'll,
not.
I'll bring an amendment on that today. So we
Okay.
have two amendments, one from Commissioner Rubio, which I'll let her explain. I'll bring an amendment to 931, suggesting that council set a floor of 20% set aside for the housing set aside for home ownership.
And I guess I'm just trying to connect the dots between what we're attempting to do and what I'm hearing today and what we've heard for a while. I don't want to oversimplify what you're speaking to because you've hit on a couple of different pieces. But the history of the Argay and Park Rose communities going back 50 years, sort of Central City's plans for it, whether promises have been kept or not kept. There's a lot here. There's air quality, there's livability. I'm trying to figure out if there are pieces in the community outreach with respect to TIF that you felt weren't met. In the example you gave for Park Rose, we're having problems throughout the city attracting private capital. That's not unique to Park Rose right now. It's kind of catastrophic right now, the lack of capital flowing into the city. And that's for all kinds of housing and all kinds of economic development. So I'm trying to unpack what is the particular pieces relevant to the TIF district that's before us, what is longer term dynamics of the neighborhood, and what we're dealing with, frankly, citywide right now. And I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but.
Yeah, I do have thoughts on that, in that, so space is the only TIF with industry and residential land uses in it. So as a workshop community member who helped develop this plan, you would think in those discussions with lay people, not development people, Advanced Portland would have been put in the economic plan that was passed. So we could see what the goals are, what the outlines are, how we fit into the grand scheme. You would think that the Clean Industry Hub that the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability have been working on for the last 2 years with the Columbia Corridor would have been brought up and mentioned and discussed. It wasn't, right? So this leads to distrust when we see multi-year plans in the works by the city. The city comes to us and asks to have a transparent, community-led conversation, and then we find out, well, wait a second, there's all these policy and plans chugging along the tracks that you haven't discussed at all with us. You haven't respected us enough to even let us know about that. And so that's what the concern is, because once again, it's the pattern of politically connected industry in our area chugging along with the city and the residents left on the side of the road.
Can you just specific to space and what's before us today? What aspect are you objecting to?
The aspect that I'm objecting to is there's not strong enough language in there that protects residents, considering industry is also part of that agreement. There's not strong enough language in there to protect the air quality, the health of the community. There's not strong enough language in there that explains the housing possibilities. When you look at Echo Northwest Plan, it says TIFs lead to a 45% increase in density in housing. The wording's not in there. It's nice, it's aspirational, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate all that work. But if we're making a 30-year, $310 million deal, shouldn't it be more than aspirational? Shouldn't we have benchmarks, metrics of success, of here's what we're going to go for? Doesn't mean it's locked in stone that you're gonna hit it, but here's what we're gonna go for. So at least we know where we're going, and all of us are having the same conversation. Not residents having one conversation, industry having another conversation.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Gonzalez? So I think I understand what you're trying to understand. Um, and I'm hardly an expert on TIF districts. Uh, I think one way to perhaps get at the concerns that have been raised today, we essentially have 6 or so TIF district plans that are largely baked, and we'll vote on those in a second. We also have another ordinance that basically provides guidance to the city administrator to set some broad policies for how TIF districts get administered or get managed, might be one crude way of putting it. One possibility, which I hope to explore with staff when the item comes to us, is asking Mike or Donnie, is it possible to direct the city administrator's office to develop an evaluation framework for the kind so that we can measure how we're doing in terms of new industrial development, new residential development in all of the TIF districts, or we could say we could target the space district if we wanted to. So that's a conversation that I'm going to, on the basis of what we've heard in comms, that's a preview of the questions I will be asking Mike and Donnie and other interested parties in a couple of minutes.
I
Does that
think
make
I
sense?
followed, and I guess what I just want to acknowledge, I think I am hearing a desire to protect community. That's what I'm hearing in multiple ways. And, when we talk about urban renewal and TIF, there's a long history here of the impacts on neighborhoods, sometimes leads to great economic development, sometimes permanently changes neighborhoods. And what has been presented to us is that this was a community-led exploration of each of these TIF districts with substantial community involvement, taking into account the perspectives of existing residents in formulating the plan. At least I'm paraphrasing what's been presented to us. And maybe what I'm hearing is that some parts of the space community didn't necessarily feel that their perspectives were fully baked into what's been presented to us. Am I
No,
oversimplifying that?
No,
Okay.
that would be a correct summation.
I don't know what to do with that right now. I'm processing what you're saying, and it just speaks to no community is a monolith. You bring to the table segments. It's sometimes an attempt to right past wrongs about who was at the table, and that may exclude other voices in going forward. And you still have a segment of the community that feels not heard on the design of the plan. And again, I was just out in your neighborhood 2 weeks ago, and it's a unique geography that is different than other parts of the city, and you can tell that it was once its own space that was not part of the city of Portland in really fundamental ways. And I understand why people want to protect it. I don't know if I have something actionable right now. I'm processing what you're saying, and I appreciate your testimony. I need to go back and think about this.
Could I jump in here? Because I think a lot of these questions are going to be answered in our next item. I don't necessarily expect everybody to have to stay here and listen in, but I want to remind my colleagues of what the resolution says that we will be voting on later. First of all, it says that it directs the city administration to work in collaboration with Prosper Portland and PHV to bring forward 5-year action plans for each of the districts. That includes partnerships with the neighborhoods, including the Neighborhood Prosperity Network. It requires each of these TIF districts to bring 5-year plans back to council to share and identify what the plans are and what the budget priorities are within those districts. So what I'm hearing, the desire I'm hearing on your part to engage community, that is literally the next step in the process, and that is spelled out clearly in the resolution. And maybe Donnie, I think he got up.
He's over here.
Oh, there's Donnie. Maybe we should take a step back when we present the next items and talk about what the process is and where we are in that process. A couple of other things. I am very sympathetic to what you're saying, specifically regarding public health. That is something that concerns me as well. The economics of this, I want to remind people, because I hear a lot of people saying this is taking taxpayer dollars away from something else. And so you get into what is called the but-for argument. TIF districts are not appropriate in areas that are already developing economically. TIF districts are specifically designed for areas where you need to invest in those areas, invest in infrastructure, transportation, neighborhood initiatives, whatever else, in order to generate economic prosperity. The taxes are basically, and I'm oversimplifying this, but they're basically frozen in the TIF district on the day you start the district. Then new taxes generated as a result of the creation of the district and the investments go back into the district specifically as further investment. In other words, if you have a TIF district in your neighborhood, you are the beneficiary of the economic growth in that district, as opposed to the rest of the city where tax growth goes back into effectively the general fund, and we can spend it anywhere in the city we want for any purpose we want. So I want to be very careful on that. And last but not least, probably the toughest thing about municipal government duty is the obligation to uphold the law and treat everybody the same. And we get people coming before council all the time saying, we like this kind of business, but we don't like that kind of business, and we don't want that kind of business, and we want you, the city council, to tell that business they can't do business here. But if it's a legal, taxed, regulated business, they have every right to locate anywhere in the city that the zoning is appropriate for them to locate. That's just the truth. And if we don't like that, then we need to go upstream, including to the state legislature, and change our zoning laws. But for now, this council finds itself frequently in a position of having to be the defender of the location of businesses that are very, very unpopular, particularly around energy, I would say, are probably the toughest ones we all end up wrestling with here. So I just want to be aware of the bigger picture. I hope you will stay engaged. Yes, we've heard from you many times. You're passionate, you're awesome, you're well-informed, you know what you're talking about. You're exactly the kind of people who can help us shape the next step of this process. And I appreciate it. And the two young folks who brought the postcards, thank you. I look forward to reading those as well. And I appreciate that you took the time to do that.
May I say one more thing
Of
before we
course
get
you may.
down? Thank you. I appreciate looking at the bigger picture. I also just want to be very clear that the Prologis site is the only location I've been able to find in Portland that has no meaningful buffer between industrial and residential. So I don't want to pretend like we're just like everywhere else and experiencing that problem the same place.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for the conversation. It was
Thank you.
terrific. Thanks. One more communications item, 922, please, Keelan.
Request of Portland advocates for lead-free drinking water to address council regarding what Water Bureau won't talk about. They have not arrived.
All right, very good. We'll go to the consent agenda. Have any items been pulled off the consent agenda?
Two items have been pulled, 935 and 937.
935 has been pulled and 937 has been pulled. Please call the roll on the remainder of the consent agenda.
Maps,
Aye.
Rubio. Aye. Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the consent agenda is adopted. First time certain item, please, item 923. And if you could go ahead and read all 9 of the next items. Their second readings, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Item 923, approve the third amendment to the Lentz Town Center Urban Renewal Plan. Item 924, adopt the 12th amendment to the Central East Side Urban Renewal Plan. Item 925, approve the 82nd Avenue Area Urban Renewal Plan. Item 926, adopt the East 205 Urban Renewal Plan. Item 927, adopt the Sumner Park Rose Argay Columbia Corridor Urban Renewal Plan. Item 928, adopt the Lloyd Holiday Urban Renewal Plan. Item 929, adopt the Central East Side Corridor Urban Renewal Plan. Item 930, adopt the West Side Urban Renewal Plan. And item 931, direct the city administrator to bring forward action plans, amendments, and review of set-aside policy in collaboration with Prosper Portland.
All right, very good. Couple of introductory remarks. First of all, with regard to item, well, actually, there's a lot of thank yous here. I'll do this at the end. Colleagues, before I call the roll, are there amendments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
State which number you're talking.
I will have an amendment for 931. And if you'd like, I could read that amendment now and explain what it attempts to do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Colleagues, you might remember last week when this item was on first reading, there was some discussion around setting some targets around home ownership within the affordable housing bucket. That comes with these TIF districts. After conversations with colleagues on council and staff, we've put together an amendment that directs the city administrator and relevant policymakers in this space to target 20% of these funds for homeownership activities. If there are no questions about that, I can read the specific language. Any questions, Commissioner Gonzalez?
just want to make sure the last part of that, what was the?
So basically here within the TIF districts that were, especially the East Portland TIF districts, we're directing the city administrator to essentially earmark 20% of the funds for homeownership activities.
And would that, so we would continue for the time being with a 45% affordable housing set aside. Would the 20% be on top of that, or would it be assumed somewhat inside?
Why don't I turn it over to the housing experts so I don't mess this up?
Good morning, Helmy Hisrick for the record, Director Portland Housing Bureau. The recommendation or the amendment, I believe, is to set aside, to take 20% of the 45% set aside funds for affordable housing through the set aside amendment process to establish a floor of 20% for homeownership activities in the East Portland districts.
So the 20 comes from the 45.
It's a portion of the 45%.
And what do we think the ramifications are of that? In terms of so the existing 45, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but I'm usually thinking of multifamily subsidized rentals. What in fact is typically built with that 45?
45% set aside for affordable housing is the broad requirement to have housing that serves households at or below 80% of AMI if they are rental and 100% of the area median income if they're home ownership. So it's very broad. It's not specific in how those funds are spent. The action plans we'll develop will actually set what the specific expenditures are. So the ramifications of establishing 20% of those set-aside funds for homeownership activities means that when we go into the action planning process with the community, we will begin with a conversation that says 20% of the funds that are set aside for affordable housing will be needed. We will need to develop affordable housing homeownership programs. That's it. It's not specific about what type of program, other than that it is to result in affordable homeownership. The balance of the funds that would be for affordable housing could be spent on rental or homeownership depending upon what the community conversation results in.
And just to be crystal clear on the assumption I'm trying to get at, if you look over the last 5 to 10 years, the utilization of the 45, do you have any idea what the mix has been in terms of rental and ownership, not necessarily in dollars deployed, but in terms of actual housing that's being generated. Again, I may have walked in with the wrong assumption. I just visualize primarily the rental side, notwithstanding what you're saying, that some of it can go on the ownership side. But I'm just actually curious, what have we been building with the 45% set aside?
It varies by district. I'm sorry, I don't have a detailed list of what's been built in every district. Historically, the set-aside policy has included targets for homeownership in specific districts. I do have some data for example, in interstate corridor, the homeownership goals that were set in that district were approximately I believe 30% were set aside, and the result was that 32% of the tax increment funds in interstate were used for home ownership, helping over 600 households. That includes not just home ownership, not just down payment assistance, but also home repair assistance in the home ownership program.
So helping people stay in their homes. Okay. My main question is only getting at what's the opportunity cost. So we prescribed a specific item here in great amount of detail, or some degree of detail, is what does that mean we can't do? And I mean, that's my more fundamental question on the 45% set aside to begin with, is that we're prescribing in advance how things are going to unfold. But Donnie, you had something to...
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Don Oliveira for the record. So if you're asking about the opportunity cost of setting a specific target, in this case, to Helmi's point, it sort of explicitly states that that's the bare minimum for that particular category of product that the TIF can invest in. But for example, in past TIFs, we've set a range for the different product categories that might happen. So anecdotally, in the east side in the past, we've set 35 to 50% of the 45% set aside for rental housing. We've set 20 to 45% for MFI home ownership. There's been low income community facilities, 0 to 10%. So we've had ranges to keep those categories flexible in the event that a community has a specific target of projects and products that they want in their district. Long story short, while we support home ownership, so that's not the problem. We're just limiting the flexibility that community will have to direct how those funds are established in their district. So it's a flexibility limitation is the opportunity cost.
Got it. I got it. Okay. And I know we talked about this in concept 2 weeks ago, but I'm not sure my team's really processed this, had a chance to. So I'm just trying to get caught up on it a little bit.
Absolutely. I appreciate the due diligence.
I'm done for now. Go ahead.
Commissioner Ryan?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really supportive of 45%. When I had oversight of the Bureau, I brought this up all the time about AMI. I was told it was a state issue. So I'm happy to see that we're suddenly reacting to something that was discussed 2 weeks ago. Reacting is a word that I'll use right now because you all have been working on this for a long time. So I think what I'm not catching is there's always trade-offs. So what are the trade-offs if these funds are allocated towards this? And then when you referenced, Donnie, the interstate corridor TIF, was that the revenue that also helps the North-Northeast preference policy? Because that wasn't stated. And that's the only comparison I can think of right now that perhaps we're using parallel construct with. Is that true?
Yes. I mean, in short answer, yes.
I mean, since I've been here, that's the only housing option that we've used for home ownership.
I guess, again, Commissioner, I would offer that we're all supportive of the home ownership product and setting a target. It just limits what community can give us feedback on.
No, I mean, aspirationally, we want to do everything.
Exactly.
So we know that, but we're trying to get clarity. This is pretty last minute, and it seems complicated, and I want to support it. But again, I'm trying to understand what the trade-offs are. You have all been working on this for quite some time. So could you please tell us what those trade-offs are?
Let me just begin by saying, without having a specific action plan, an expenditure plan, it is difficult to assess if factually what the trade-offs are. But I can address what I think Commissioner Gonzalez was getting at with regard to multifamily rental. Very typically, when we think about affordable housing, we think about the creation of multifamily rental housing using low-income housing tax credits. The reason we do that is because it's the best source of leveraging local dollars with federal dollars. It is probably it's a widely used system for affordable housing creation. So I think what you could say is if you do less rental housing using tax credits, you're losing the potential leverage of those tax credits. So that's at a 30,000 foot level. It's a very high level. That said, there are probably not enough tax credits available to leverage all of the TIF dollars that will be available. And it's very likely when we engage in a dialogue with the community about an action plan for housing, there's going to be a range of interests. Not everybody wants low-income housing tax credit multifamily rental. Some people will want home ownership, new home ownership. Some people will want home ownership assistance for existing homes. Some folks will want to have rehabilitation of homes, or they'll want the opportunity to build accessory dwelling units. All of those things are activities that we need to discuss with the community to see what the housing strategy or the housing action plan will be. So the only trade-off in setting aside, creating a minimum amount of expenditure for home ownership is saying that home ownership should be considered a priority in the East Portland districts, and we want to encourage or support the expenditure of no less than 20% of the funds towards homeownership. But I think homeownership itself takes many forms, and that is yet to be discussed. Lastly, I'll say, what we know, if we know going into this dialogue with the community that there is a starting point of view that homeownership is a priority, and I will add that it also reflects what I've heard out in the community, that in the East Portland meetings, that there's a strong interest in that. We at the Housing Bureau will look for ways to leverage those dollars as well. It's not as easy and simple as a tax credit system, but we can definitely look for resources to leverage those dollars and make them stretch as far as possible.
Okay, that was helpful. I want to say yes. I just, because you've been working on this for so long, I can't imagine this hadn't come up over and over again, and yet it wasn't part of the original proposal. So that's why I wanted to hear some more oomph behind the trade-offs.
And the reason that is, Commissioner Ryan,
Okay.
is because in the resolution, you're directing staff to go back out to the districts to work with communities to actually build out that portfolio. So the work that you're asking us actually hasn't been done. To the earlier communications, staff, our community are asking when do they get a chance to give us feedback. That's the 5-year action plan that as soon as this is adopted, staff go to work to
Thank you
develop.
for reminding me why everything takes so long.
Yeah.
All right, that was fair, actually. I just want to say I'll be mulling this over, and I appreciate the dialogue that we're having. I think everyone does want this. My final comment is I think we sometimes don't define what our, say, 3 primary goals are, and I'm kind of a believer I'd rather go deep and get something done than spray and pray and have like 20 initiatives that barely make a dent. So I'm concerned when we keep piling on, and I want to make sure we have impact. That's all. That's the lens I have at this moment. Thanks.
Commissioner Ryan, my name is Shabri Vickers, for the record, and I really appreciate the questions that everyone is asking, and Helmi, what you've given. I think one of the things that we've continued to hear, and to what DCA Oliveira mentioned, is the action plans are literally where community gets to inject their voice. And as a community, as a 3rd generation Northeast Portlander who raised my daughter in Northeast Portland, when I think about interstate and the goal of asking for exactly what you want, that's what takes place during the action plans. And so people being able to preserve the homes that they already live in was obviously so important because we wanted to maintain, in particular, Black communities being able to continue to live in interstate. And so when you think about this process that you've talked about, what we, alongside staff, have really dug into is that action plans are where we actually get to decide what we want. So the TIF plan, right, and I've mentioned this before, ends up being like the type of investment that could absolutely occur, and the action plan is what you're actually ordering for the next 5 years. And so community gets to say, keeping folks there in home and is what we want, and that's where we get to make those decisions. And so it's about flexibility or not. Absolutely, to your question, Commissioner Gonzalez.
So in 1 week's time since last week, you're embracing this, and I'm fine with hearing that this will keep evolving as we engage community.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think
last week was perhaps more aspirational than concrete.
I think TIF districts are a relationship for 30 years at least, right? It's us saying we're going to be working with the community over 30 years.
Sometimes when you sit up here, it's confusing.
It's okay. And
That's
the
not very
action
clear.
plans really help us then decide how we're going to take those dollars and invest them in the next 5 years. So it would be premature of us to make those decisions now without actually even having a TIF plan to move forward. So that's what we're doing today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We deserve this dialogue today. Thanks.
Commissioner Maps.
I'll lower my hand and let Commissioner Rubio go.
Commissioner Rubio. Commissioner Rubio, there's just a specific follow-up. Commissioner Gonzalez, go.
This is a question for council and maybe, or legal counsel. How will TIF plans be amended following January 2025? That's, if someone on legal can answer that, and I'll turn over, if you need to mull that over, but that's the precise question. How would new council amend, what are the mechanics for amending plans after January 1, 2025?
Adrian, are you available to answer that question?
Why don't
And they need to
Commissioner
process it.
Rubio,
Yeah.
why don't you guys sort that out? Commissioner Rubio.
So I have a question. I don't know if it's for staff or Commissioner. So the way I read the amendment, it's 20% of the total TIF funds, which would come out of PHB's share.
My understanding is that it's out of the 45% set aside, which is PHP's share.
Okay. Can you do some quick math for me to get a sense of the scale of the investment that we're talking about here?
She's on his meeting.
Okay, and I'll move on to my second question while you're figuring that out. And so Commissioner Maps, so I am about to introduce an amendment too, and it's just basically putting into the resolution language that staff had communicated last year, or last week, sorry. And so my question to you is, what will happen if the floor is 20% as you're proposing, but if the community comes back with a different number that might be lower? And I don't know if that's ever happened before, but it's just a question. What would happen if that comes back and we have that floor? And I don't know if it's a staff or a commissioner.
Well, I have my intuition, but I see a bunch of smart people up there nodding their heads. So why not I kick it over to staff and then I can react.
Well, Commissioner Maps, I think that's the question we should let, if
I
Adrian.
think that's my question in
Yeah.
a way.
Adrian, are you on?
All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
So to the question of how the TIF plans will be amended, it's a statutory requirement that substantial amendments come back to council. And those are defined as amendments that would change the boundaries of the TIF plan. But minor amendments such as what Portland Housing Bureau would do with their money would be considered a minor amendment, and what projects those would go to. And that would go before Prosper's board.
Can I ask a follow-up question then?
Sure.
Is that Commissioner Rubio? So Adrian, so we have this opportunity with district representation after January 1, 2025. You'll have 3 East District council members that ideally are deeply engaged with their community. And if they think we're on the wrong path, I mean, that is the democratic process potentially that supplements Prosper's process, that supplements the Housing Bureau's process to reevaluate the plan. That's a great opportunity, frankly, if we get something wrong, the community engages with their elected reps and they can come back to council. But I guess what I'm hearing here is the initial legal analysis is the reallocation of percentages may not be substantial enough of a question under state law to mandate it come back to council. I have a follow-up question. I just want to confirm that that's.
So that's a great question. I think that's a different conversation than what's in the TIF plan, because the allocation, while there's reference to the set-aside policy in the TIF plans, the allocation of 45% is actually in council's set-aside policy. And that's been adopted by ordinance. And so council could come back and change that with a vote at any time to, bring forth an ordinance. And that's how you would change the set aside policy. So future council could still change the set aside policy. And there's reference to homeownership and percentages, and that could go into the set aside policy. And that's it's tied to council maintains authority over the budget and prosper in the Housing Bureau's budgets. And so where there's limited ability to actually go back and amend TIF plans by council, there still is budgetary authority and then the set aside policy that is controlled by council.
Yeah, and just to be crystal clear, I think our takeaway from last week is the set aside policy is in the aggregate. It's not necessarily at the individual plan level in terms of the way that ordinance works. At least that was the takeaway I got from last week.
Correct. And what I heard last week was that's what the Housing Bureau will be looking at. I'll defer to Helmy and Donnie to talk about that.
But do you have anything to add to that?
Well, Commissioner, I just want to just kind of piggyback. Thank you, Adrian. So if you're looking at it to answer your Commissioner Rubio's question now, Prosper and the Housing Bureau can move the dial on that 20% based on feedback from community within the guidelines of the TIF district. But future council will be able to move the larger dial around the set aside policy. So council will still direct the broader amount that's set aside for housing, and staff working with community will figure out that home ownership number. Does that make sense? There's a broader dial.
It does. It does to me. I'll defer to my colleagues. I have a follow-up comment question, but I want to make sure you have space.
I just want to get the answer to that question about what the number comes out to be.
The math question. Okay, so we have an estimate that in East Portland, the 3 TIF districts will provide $643 million over 30 years for affordable housing using 45% set aside. 20% of that is $128.6 million. So I would say somewhere between $120 and $130 million. That would be put towards homeownership activities. The balance is $514.4 million. That would be affordable housing without any, however, a rental, homeownership, or other repair.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Did you have follow-up?
Why don't you go? I'm going to state why I think setting some targets around home ownership is important. Based on why I think it's important to come from council. But if you have some questions or other,
I think I just want to synthesize what we've just heard and getting back to the question of community engagement. If I were to summarize this is probably my first time through this in my time on council, and to have some members of a specific community object to a plan and testify for council is somewhat new to me. So I'm processing that in real time. And that's after hearing we had a pretty robust community engagement process to date, and that we also plan to have one in the future. So I just don't want to set in stone something that's hard to unwind if community really becomes concerned about the direction this is going. And what I'm hearing is the community is going to have a lot of opportunity to participate in the plan, little plan, whatever that term is, not the TIF plan, but the action plan. There's not really a great opportunity for community to change the shape of the TIF plan once we adopt, and except for the expansion or reduction of its boundaries. I mean, that's something that will come back to council in the new form, and that council would take up future set aside policy as they see fit. So is that a fair summary of what we're hearing? Maybe that's as much for council. I just want to make sure I understand where community gets to re-engage on this in the next 5 years.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. So I really appreciate your question, especially just kind of honing back into community. So when I think about the engagement that's happened up to actually building the TIF plan, in particular, our working groups literally had access to the plan document so that they could go in for months and months and months and change language and say, I'm not sure about this, and this is what I prefer, and from a governance standpoint, this is what we'd like to see. And those aligned with all of the work that you heard us talk about before. So the over 95 members who are on working groups and steering committees, the well over 65 community and working group meetings, all of the over 300 points of feedback, whether through surveys or folks who have said that they wanted to join us and stay engaged and aligned. So the community has absolutely had, we call it co-creation for a reason, right? So the exploration was started, one, because many community members asked us to what Mayor Wheeler talked about. Our community needs investment. Please go through this exploration. And Advance Portland asked us to do that. And so from that, we then went through the many years, or a little over a year, of the direct engagement for this process. And so while the TIF plan has been co-created alongside community, the action plans, you're correct, do really get into how we will spend these dollars. So now we have the option of the plan, the option of this financial tool to invest in communities, and then the action plan further directs how we will actually invest these dollars.
And I'll just add for the record, Shay Flaherty, Bethune, Prosper, Portland. And when it comes to your question around the set-aside policy, Commissioner, the resolution before you today actually instructs us, it gives us homework to work with the Housing Bureau to come back to council in 2 years with considerations around that set-aside policy. So we hope that that will also be an engaged process with community members and stakeholders, but we are very much taking that instruction seriously to come back with considerations.
Yeah, and it's very insightful. I think the key piece I'm trying to parse out here is that's a question of citywide policy, the set aside, that is not necessarily geographically driven, even though it will have geographical dynamics. I'm trying to hone in on the opportunity created in the new form of government with truly district representation, where you will have 3 people on council that you literally elected to speak on your behalf. And I guess it begs the question, is there a material downside to delaying any of these until January, until the new council? What do we lose by pushing back some of these a couple of months?
Hey, Shay, because I want to, one of the new things that we have done, starting with Cully, is there's actually a governance charter that is attached to each TIF plan in East Portland. In section 2B of the governance charter, it actually speaks to the committee's role in any amendment, whether that's going before our board or city council. So whether it's what we would call a major amendment or a minor amendment, as well as their role in co-creating action plans. So we are pretty intentional about acknowledging a committee role in co-creating with us anything that changes the intention of the TIF plan, because they were so involved with us. At this moment, we want to make sure that continues to survive over 30 years, knowing that politics are going to change. So I think that hopefully that answers the question. Literally contractually, per the TIF plan and the attached governance charter, we have to perform and work with the committee in certain ways, and it speaks very specifically to who will be on that committee and that it be a representation of the community.
But that's if you propose to change the plan. What happens if communities essentially demanding a change to the plan? If I followed what you're saying about the governance committee,
They could bring forward an amendment. Like the community could bring through the community, right? We staff the committee, we don't sit on the committee. So in fact, the committee could say, we have X need, and that need is not reflected in the TIF plan. Currently, we want to propose an amendment, and we would need to take that up. That is very different. You're correct. That is very district specific versus citywide set aside policy related.
And just to follow up on my question, so the downside of delaying any one of these districts, focusing specifically the ones on the east side. We're now almost November. If we leave this to the next council to take this up in January or February, whenever they so fit, what is the downside to that?
I can speak to the risk around delay has to do with the nature of the increment process. And so us getting this vote now means that we can start the TIF plan increment process in January 1st. If we take this up next year, we're pushing that start date out another year to January of 2026. And if you recall from the presentation, TIF starts very slowly. One of the reasons we can do this action planning early is because the preponderance of the resources don't come forward until really at volume. We're not able to access them until the 5th year. So this just puts us back another 6 years potentially from when we can start doing larger activities in East Portland and the central city.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think, community has been asking for this as well, right? And so being able to be responsive in real time to what they've been asking and really considering what our community needs now. When we think about not just East Portland, but Central City and the revitalization of Central City and having financial tools to be able to engage not only with community, but with development partners and having them see Portland as ready and open for business, these TIF plans are absolutely a part of that. I think, what we heard Director Flaherty-Bettine mention yesterday is we also have received a lot of feedback about how we're doing this process, about how the co-creation process actually is something that's new, and to what Lisa mentioned, allows for literally within the governance plans how we can engage community. So this is a plan to partner over at least the next 30 years with resources, and to what Director Hissrich mentioned, to bring a match to some of the different things to build housing. We know that housing is such an important need in our community right now. So the timing really does shift off for at least 6 years if we don't move now. And I think we've heard.
What's the 6 years?
So to what Director Flaherty-Bettine mentioned, it takes at least 5 years for true, real increment to actually be available to start making some major impact. So in the beginning, it's a lot of the community engagement, which is why the resolution really speaks to, let's build that action plan. Let's really take the time to better understand the set-aside policy so that we can be responsive to community. And I would say to honor the promise that we've had with community, it has been join us now and be with us over the next 30 years so that we can make these decisions around how the investment in our city looks like moving forward, because we know that you need these investments now.
And you brought up Central City, which I share the urgency on, just given the trajectory right now. But I guess my question was really just specifically about East Side. If we don't do this now, we can't get started in January 1 for those districts. So you're starting January 1 at 20, you have to wait until 2026?
Yep. That's correct. Fiscal year 26, 27 would be when that increment starts. And then, as we've discussed in the past, you can bond against potential tax increment, finance increment. You can bond against that, but only starting on the 5th year. So you want to make large investments, stabilizing investments in either of the districts or either of the sets of districts. It wouldn't be able to come to fruition for another 5 years after the start date.
But if you delay one or some, does that delay it for all, or does it delay it just for that one or some?
It would delay it for the one particular plan, for sure. I think what we recognize, and if we just come back to the co-creation process, so we went through extensive engagement with community, as you've heard before, and we actually asked them to vote. And the part of the vote was, do you want us to move forward with this and bring this to council, as Advance Portland asked us to do when you all moved that forward before? And if so, what does the boundary look like, right? And so we've had folks ask yes, no, or wait. And in East Portland, one of the only, waits, you've heard of that in particular from Argay. There were a few folks who did vote to wait. And then when we looked at the next option of amending the boundary, folks decided to abstain from voting. And so the community co-creation was asking the community, is this what you want? And they voted in the affirmative to move forward. Hence why we've been here with you all today and last week.
I want to build on that, Shabri. So specific to space, because I think you're speaking specifically to the testimony you heard today, we actually had the working group take 2 votes. They took a vote choosing whether or not to proceed, and then they actually took a vote on 3 scenarios for a geography, knowing that Argay Terrace, as a neighborhood association, had actually voted for more time. And so one of those scenarios included not including the neighborhood association, knowing that we could come back, and we were very clear, we could come back and amend them into the district at a future time. That would give them more time. And the neighborhood representation at the table, as part of the working groups, actually voted to abstain on that. So they voted to abstain, and so the rest of the group that was voting to proceed said, well, then let's move forward with the geography as we've shared it publicly for the past 12 months or so. And that's how the full area proceeded. But we did want to honor what we were hearing at the table as well, which is there was a particular neighborhood association that had asked for more time. I do want to honor, this is a democratic process, and so ultimately there was not consensus across the working groups. I think what we heard was a division of folks who wanted to proceed, the majority of folks wanted to proceed, and the minority was folks who wanted more time. And so I do think it becomes really important in terms of the resolution that we continue to lean into the co-creation process that we've done with the TIF districts to really identify action plans, because everything we're hearing about more time is both about kind of trust building and the need for ongoing relationship building with city partners, and around getting very clear about what the investment priorities are, particularly in the short term, and making sure that community voice is heard in that space. That assumes that the money is there to invest. And without the TIF plans, we don't have the money there to invest.
Okay, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'm all about creating homeownership opportunities for those that haven't had access. It was something when I had the Bureau for 2 years prior to Commissioner Rubio's 18 months, it was something I actually put into the budget, $3 million. And there was some considerable pushback actually within the Bureau and from tension amongst some of the special interests that you're close with. So I'm kind of pitching myself in a good way that we're having this conversation. So thank you, Commissioner Mapps, for bringing this up. I still need to, and I'm also getting in real time more of a commitment to the community-facing TIF districts that I think have organically evolved as we've gone over to the east side and we've gotten away from just central district, if that's a fair comment. So my point is this, knowing that our one example, at least I'm trying to shove this example at us with interstate TIF and north and northeast preference policy as our one example to really analyze right now. And then we're going forward with this proposed amendment. Have we heard from the good people in Coley, for example, or Lentz? Do they want this? So is this, I think the reason we should have a thorough dialogue is because we could be setting up a new game plan for TIF districts. And I want to understand that more deeply, since this was a last minute amendment to a lot of work. And I'm open to hearing what your thoughts are. You're all talking amongst yourself. This should be good.
I can at least share for the engagement process that preceded the Cully TIF district's adoption. There was a lot of discussion around this, and there was a lot of appetite in community to make sure and see that home ownership opportunities and expenditures within TIF activities were represented. And so what you saw come before council in the previous last year when we brought the Cully TIF district forward, again, I love this analogy that Director Vickers has mentioned before, is that the TIF plans, we've built a menu. And that menu is going to be available for 30 years. And then every 5 years, community gets to order something new off that menu, right? And so we made sure to include within the TIF plan for Cully the opportunity to invest in home ownership, right? And now, as they're going through the action planning process, they'll be able to select that percentage. And I think today, whether you're weighing this amendment, I think what I've heard from my colleagues today at the dais is that historically, I think we're seeing that the historic expenditure in homeownership might be higher than the threshold that's being contemplated today.
And I'd love to also offer that, while Cully has been established, and because of the governance process and the 4 years it went into that, which really helped seed a lot of the work that you see here today, if Cully's interested in a 20%, floor for home ownership, that's absolutely something that they could bring in the plan as well. So I think to what we heard Director Abuaf say, the action plan process and truly the resolution that we've brought aligns with taking time with community, better understanding what community is interested in. That will be brought with the action plans. And at the same time, we would be working with Director Hisarick on the set-aside policy and more so understanding that. And Cully, because of the work that was built into that, has that plan and that opportunity as well.
And those action plans have targeted goals. So what would be the targeted goal for the percentage of home ownership from this incentive?
Well, that's exactly what action plans could build into it, yes.
I would definitely ask for that, or it'd be difficult for us to ever know if we're measuring success or in how we would make adjustments so that we could get better outcomes. Yeah.
Well, I defer to Helmi on the North-Northeast Housing Action Plan, but we certainly, for the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative, on the economic development side, we have very specific goals about number of property owners supported, number of businesses supported, number of cultural organizations supported through our cultural business hub. So it gets to what you heard earlier in terms of testimony from Lynn. There are very clear metrics in each of the action plans. And if you go to our website, we actually report on those measures and metrics on a regular basis, including disaggregated by recipient.
Thank you, Lisa. I really did try to give you a softball. I'm glad you took it.
If I may, I'll add a real example of, so they're in the Cully District, which does not yet have an action plan completed, and they have not set aside homeownership targets. It is a topic of conversation amongst the advisory body. The Portland Housing Bureau, and this goes also to the trade-offs question. The Portland Housing Bureau applied for a federal grant called the Price Grant to HUD. It was a grant specifically to assist mobile home parks in infrastructure repair and potential conversion to homeownership. We've not found out yet if we're successful on that grant. One of the things that we did in the preparation of that grant is we went to the Cully TIF District Advisory Body and asked if they would consider providing a match with their future funds, essentially saying down the road, we would be looking for a match. That match, because those funds were there and because they could vote in favor of that, that actually made our grant more competitive. So it's how we would leverage funds, and that's an example of how we would do it.
Thanks. Commissioner Rubio.
So I just wanted to go back to my earlier question about staff and the 20% floor. Does it or does it not then allow flexibility in those action plans for community if it should vary from that 20%? And I guess my question is, I would feel more comfortable if the word was considered, in there instead of directed, but I don't know if that's a material difference for you. And I guess I'm wondering if it just isn't, and maybe it's just my own concern, and then I'm fine. But I would like to know.
So I think we've heard of the opportunity cost being flexibility, and so with community, if that's set and not considered as you're specifying, then community would need to offer insight on the action plan at that floor level. So you're right. If they decided they really only wanted 10% this year because homeownership had already been booming in their area, we would need to go to at least the 20%. And of course, Director Hisarick, I'd love you to add anything if I missed it.
No, I think that's a good explanation. I think the only opportunity cost is flexibility, and the benefit is setting priorities early at this stage.
So you would not be able then to come in under if it were at that floor, if the community said something different?
There would be an additional step necessary to go into that level.
All right, very good, Commissioner Mapps.
I want to thank my colleagues for this dialogue, and I really appreciate staff being available to dig in. There's been a lot of conversation this afternoon around opportunity costs. What can't we do if we go forward with this set aside for home ownership? And I think I want to look at the inverse of this. So basically the proposal on the table is to set aside about $128 million to support home ownership programs in East Portland. And colleagues, I want to remind you, one of the opportunity costs, if we do not do this, is we'll pass up, I think, on one of our best opportunities to build wealth in East Portland that has come before council in the 4 years that I have been here. And this is important because if you look at the neighborhoods of East Portland, contrary to the conventional wisdom, you will find that they are actually becoming less racially diverse than more racially diverse. And that, I think we all know, is because folks who look like me are getting priced out of the city. We are slowly being pushed to the city's borders at this point. And one of the reasons why is that people of color can't compete, especially on wealth. And where does wealth come from in America and in Portland? It comes through home ownership. So I sure hope that we make an investment in the people of East Portland, and we make an investment in the wealth and the possibility of the people who live in these neighborhoods. Otherwise, I think we're going to do something very good, provide a lot of affordable housing and in a few years, frankly, we will lose the diversity that I think a lot of people think makes this city and these neighborhoods in particular so special.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. Commissioner Rubio?
No, sorry, I don't have any.
Very good. So Commissioner Maps put an amendment on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second it. I just would like to keep, someone make sure I can see I've heard it read. I just.
Sure, actually, I don't think I've read it yet.
Okay.
If I recall correctly. Should I read it, Commissioner? Or where are we, Mayor? I have not read the amendment as far as I remember.
I thought you did.
Did I?
We made a motion and then did we have a second?
I'm happy to second it. I would
Do you wanna
still
read-
like to
why-
see
Commissioner
the
Gonz-
text in front
Commissioner
of me.
Maps, why don't you reread the amendment, please?
Be it further resolved that City Council directs that when the city administrator returns to council in 2026 with recommended amendments to the set-aside policy for the East Portland TIF districts, they will recommend amendments of all documents, charts, and attachments of TIF district set-asides where 45% of affordable housing set-aside is written to include a minimum of 20% for affordable home ownership activities, with the remaining 25% allocated to other affordable housing work.
And
May I get a second?
I'm happy to second that. I had a clarifying question.
Commissioner Gonzalez seconds.
The clarifying question, do you have any objection to that being citywide policy?
I'm looking at the city administrator who doesn't look happy.
No, literally, this is a policy question for the council. Currently, the amendment is only directed at the East Portland districts.
And I'll tell you actually why I've limited it to the East Portland districts. You know, today we got 2 buckets of districts on the table, East Portland and then kind of some closer in. I recognize the dynamics downtown and whatnot are a little bit different from the dynamics of East Portland. And if you think back to the testimony we heard on first readings for these TIF districts last week, a thing that we just consistently heard from people who showed up, and I didn't ask them to show up, they showed up on their own, and they talked about home ownership in East Portland is quite important. I'll tell you the truth, I haven't heard quite the same outreach from people who live downtown. It may be there. I'm not trying to be, I could be much more aggressive, frankly, if I were fully leaning into my belief in terms of how economies work. I would probably boost the number of for home ownership way above 20%. I'm trying to establish a beachhead here so that Portland could be kind of an opportunity society. At least we kind of create policies that help us achieve that. And I'm willing to start with a relatively modest effort in East Portland. Although you wouldn't be hard to talk me into going more aggressive. But I thought the proposal I brought today was largely a consensus proposal, frankly, I think pretty modest.
Donnie?
Commissioner Gonzalez, just want to note that a 20% minimum homeownership target in downtown would be very aggressive and maybe difficult to hit, to be perfectly frank. And just to echo, I want to speak on behalf of my colleagues here. Everybody up on the dais fully supports homeownership. It's been in past TIF plans, communities led with it, frankly. And so we still want to encourage us to have the opportunity to work through with the community to develop the action plan targets based on their guidance and the need, without kind of pigeonholing staff into these specific mandates out of the gate.
Yeah, and I intuitively get the different. I mean, I think from day one, my view of what we would do in Central City and East Side, I've always assumed we would be doing it differently, different kind of community engagement, different goals. I mean, a different reality. So that makes some sense to me. I mean, I just wanted to. It is a broader policy question, and so I just wanted to make the space for it and to calibrate. But what I hear is okay to me. I mean, I'm having more trepidation about whether right now is the time to push through East Side than I am about your particular question. But I'll leave that at for now.
Thank you, and I appreciate the second. So we got a motion on that. We got an amendment on the table, Mr. Mayor.
Call the roll on the amendment.
Maps?
Aye.
Rubio?
I very much understand the desire to be responsive to the testimony we had. I do have a little bit of discomfort about picking that number before the action plans have been developed. However, I see this 20% request as a placeholder that could be presented in those conversations to give folks something to react to. So I will support this today and see how that work goes, and look forward to that work from the community process. I vote aye.
Ryan?
Thank you, Commissioner Maps, for bringing this up. It's been a 4-year conversation that I've had, and I don't love the way that this evolved at the last minute. It was important that we had a lot of dialogue. I can't tell if you're all really recommending this or you're just very good at you are very good at your jobs, and you're also explaining that this has come up. I really liked what Commissioner Rubio said. I think it's more of a placeholder. This is a last-minute amendment. I've learned that those are always tricky, and we haven't had as much dialogue as I wish, so that's why we had to take more time and try to get more information out of you all that are closer to this. My gut says that we haven't adjusted to the fact that we're doing more community-based TIF districts. We have adjusted, and as we adjust, it's organic for us to have these kind of conversations. So I don't know about the language I heard about. What'd you say? Flexibility is what? An asset or a commodity? Or anyway, flexibility is important, and it's important to keep listening. And it sounds like our community-facing TIF districts will operate in a different way than our central ones. And I don't think I'm saying anything that's mind-blowing there, but I feel we're having a real-time dialogue that's really making that so. That said, the placeholder tone is where I'm at on this one too, and with some caution, I'll vote aye.
Gonzalez.
I vote aye.
Wheeler.
So I'm going to vote no, and I want people to know why I'm going to vote no. First of all, Commissioner Maps is correct that in the United States, the number one way that intergenerational wealth is created is through home ownership. That is undeniably true. But I am also concerned that this amendment has been done at the last minute after substantial public process. It does not clarify why it is 20%, and why it's just the East Portland TIFs. Why isn't it 15%? Why isn't it 25%? It also shortcuts the public process that the resolution is intended to create, so that we could actually let the community participate in this discussion rather than a couple of us up here spitballing an estimate on how much of it should go to something that we are preordaining. We are cutting short that public process. I already gave my long-winded speech on TIF districts during communications, so I won't repeat any of that. I will just say I vote no, but the amendment does pass. Commissioner Rubio, I understand you have an amendment.
I do. So colleagues, this is a pretty straightforward amendment. As you'll remember, there was a lot of talk last week about potential homeownership targets again. And these are a component typically of the set-aside policy. So we heard pretty clearly from staff a vision that the work they'll be doing with community to dig in to this policy would also address various affordability levels and homeownership goals. So this just folds that language into the resolution so that it's clear and transparent for everyone, and that intention doesn't get lost in the mix of all the changes next year. And it was shared with all your offices and posted online yesterday. So I move to amend the first resolve statement of that resolution to clarify that the set-aside policy review will include a look at the related income and homeownership components. The amendment language was posted to the agenda yesterday.
Commissioner Rubio, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm trying to, can you provide an intuitive explanation of what your amendment does?
So this is just putting into the resolution what staff we're going to do, that broad look overall. This was stated before your amendment came through. So it probably was ordered a little bit funny.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I had one question.
And I'll second it.
Commissioner Maps seconds. Commissioner Gonzalez has a question.
Commissioner Rubio, the language around including a briefing with Prosper Portland Board of Commissioner, can you just walk me through mechanically what that means here?
I'll probably ask my staff or staff to talk about that help prepare it. Christina? Or, okay.
Our board administers the dollars through to PHB via the set-aside policy. So I would anticipate, but welcome Christina to come up, that language is about ensuring that our board is briefed about the set-aside policy, because the set-aside policy flows through the Prosper Board to PHB. Because our board holds kind of the designated responsibility in terms of tax increment finance projects and spending. And so we just need to make sure that they are briefed on the set-aside policy, because ultimately they are the entity that approves our intergovernmental agreement with PHB to pass forward those dollars.
And when you say our board, you mean the Prosper Board?
Yes,
I just
so
wanna be-
apology, yes.
Just to be crystal clear. Okay, so this would, the city administrator would work with the Housing Bureau and Prosper Portland to come back with some recommendations on set-aside policy. Those would come back to council by November 30th, 2026. I almost wish it was a lot faster than that, but I'm following the mechanics here. And that process will include essentially engagement with the Prosper Board. I mean, when I see briefing of I just want to understand what you're doing here. Okay. We're not necessarily changing any allocation of budgetary authority between Prosper and council. We're just saying we're going to consult. I got it. I think that answers my questions. Again, I would hope we can do this much more quickly than November 30th of 2026, but I'll leave it at that.
Any further, Commissioner Ryan?
Nope. Okay. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Mistake.
Commissioner Rubio and staff, I have the same thoughts. Like, why can't it be, why is it 2 to 3 years out? And we just had a robust conversation about something that,
You're asking
Pretty
why is
fast.
the set-aside policy 2 to 3 years out?
no, that we're coming back, like, we're going to have more information in 2 to 3 years. Why is the deadline 2 to 3 years from now? That's what's in the,
Commissioner Ryan, I could, if I
that's
can.
what's in the amendment
So I
that I
think,
just got. I'm trying to understand.
I mean, I think what we've heard so far is robust community engagement.
Actually,
is-
this one I've had more time.
Okay, yeah, is extremely important to us. And so when we think about Cully and just the process of actually ensuring that folks have enough time to apply to be one of the 13 CLC members, we want to give folks enough time to actually do that, to set it up. And we want to honor actual community process. I think we've heard that there's been some people have enjoyed the time. Some people have said do this even faster. And some people are asking us to wait. And so I think the 2 years allows us both to do the work to set up the community leadership committees, and then to actually consider the set-aside policy and all of the aspects of that in a time that actually honors community and how often we can meet, monthly or otherwise. So it could happen sooner, but I think what we're asking, we're saying it's the deadline of November 30th, 2026. We could absolutely come before then, but I think we want to work alongside community and not rush the action plan process, which again, this is what we're actually going to be spending these dollars on. This is where like those details that you've heard or particular considerations really come into play. And so we want to take the time with community. So we're asking for at least that time. It could come sooner for sure.
Thanks.
I have a follow-up question.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
So just to be crystal clear, when I'm thinking about community engagement on this, when we're talking about specific TIF, it affects a geographic area, and that has very specific dynamics. When we talk about East Portland, I mean, we can all editorialize on the history of East Portland, the feeling of things being done to East Portland by Central City, and to be respectful of that reality. That's one bucket of unique community engagement. When we're talking about set-aside policy, however, that is a very different framing. This is citywide policy. And one of my concerns is that as soon as we put this out there, you guys are going to get you're going to get heavily lobbied by every industry in the city. I mean, that's the reality. It's not a geographic issue as per se. This is real dollars, how it flows into the city with a lot of industries that have vested interest in those allocations. And and at the same time, there is urgency with respect to economic redevelopment in the city of Portland. So it's not going to change. I'm going to support what Commissioner Rubio is proposing here. I just would encourage us to think about the language we use around community engagement, because when I think community, I'm thinking at a neighborhood or at a geographic area, but a broader policy like set aside with substantial dollars at stake. And these are not small dollars, right? These are real dollars that maybe we just have to think about, different language, because that is going to be a real tough one for the next council to tackle. That's probably why this council's never really come back and looked hard at the set-aside policy, during our time. It's just a tough, with real dollars at stake. So I'm just going to leave that on the table, but there needs to be some sense of urgency is what I'd leave, given where the city is.
Yeah, I'll chime in on this because I was here during the last discussion around the set-aside policy, and I remember that those discussions included a statement that 5-ish years from now, we need to revisit and see whether it is the right policy. And, frankly, what I'd hoped would happen was we would have the nuance to be able to look at this district by district. I feel like with the last vote we just took, we have somewhat directed the East Portland TIF districts on what they need to do. We cut short that public input, and we actually handed them a directive from all of us sitting here today in the central city. So I feel like the more we circumvent the public process, the more we are actually tying the hands of the community that the resolution intends to make these decisions and recommendations to come back to council. I'll just say that. I do not feel comfortable again at the very last minute changing direction. I think the thoughtful process that went into the development of the resolution was the right process. The public engagement piece that comes after, that is led by community, not by council, is the right direction. And that's frankly where I will continue to be for at least 8 weeks.
Commissioner or Mayor Wheeler, just to clarify what you're saying, you're speaking with respect to set-aside policies as they'd be applied at a geographical location, including a TIF district, or with respect to the broader, because to me, they're different. We're talking about two different things. We're talking about what impacts a geography, and in a couple months, you're going to have 3 representatives of those of that geography.
Precisely. So let's let them figure it. Let's give them the opportunity to get their feet under them, develop their own strategies with community. This is a long-term process, as we heard. It's a 30-year process. I don't see what the rush is for us to be directing the next council on what they and the community should be doing with regard to TIF districts. Let's let the process work its way through as intended by the resolution.
So is that arguing for delaying the TIF district vote for East Portland?
No, not at all.
Okay, just want to make sure I was following the extension of your point.
Commissioner Rubio, I'm sorry.
I also just wanted to clarify the 2 years that was already in the resolution.
Yeah.
So that's not something that's part of my amendment.
Correct. And Commissioner Rubio, if I may, the part of the reason for that timeline too, and Commissioner Gonzalez, to your earlier question or point, is we're trying to align this with the action plan for the districts, because those districts are going to inform the set-aside policy. Like, if you recall from the last conversation, the 45% number, Mayor, you were here for that. It was largely arbitrary. It was kind of hashed out in council offices.
It was.
And we'd prefer to actually have it informed by what our districts actually want. So as they're developing their action plans, that'll give us higher fidelity on the potential what the target should be per district, so that we can actually have that set-aside policy citywide. Does that make sense?
Donnie, to be clear, just my personal bias, and the public could be completely in a different place, which is fine. I think it's going to be different by district.
Correct.
A blanket policy, the 45% in retrospect was probably good for some districts and probably not so good for other districts. I think now we have enough experience with this and enough institutional knowledge and enough, community engagement that we can be, as I say, more nuanced.
And if you think about what
these
happened, Mayor,
targets.
with the last districts, was we had the 45% target and we had to reverse engineer the outcomes by district. So we were again tweaking those dials in real time. Ideally, going forward, commissioners, we would actually let the districts set the targets for themselves, which would then create the aggregate for the city. So that would be informed by what districts actually want. So
It's a rare opportunity to make the life of the future city commissioners easier by engaging community more. We should take that deal. Any further discussion? Commissioner Rubio, you have your hands up.
So just to put a fine point on it. So what I am proposing, does that prohibit that work from happening? It helps align.
Helps align.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Can I just put out one other question?
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Have, in your community engagement, have you ever in any material way seen communities say, we don't want affordable housing, or we want caps on affordable housing, federally subsidized?
Yes.
That was a short answer.
There's always people who don't want affordable housing. It's very common. And sometimes it's because they want other investments, public investments in other things. It's sometimes because they don't want affordable housing in their communities.
Yeah, I mean,
Various reasons.
It's an area historically where NIMBYism can manifest
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah,
And
variety of reasons.
for both good and bad reasons, obviously. Okay, I'm done with my questions.
All right, Commissioner Rubio?
That's it.
All right, call the roll.
Maps,
Aye.
Rubio,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Miller.
No. The amendment is adopted. And do we have any further discussion, Commissioner Maps?
Mr. Mayor, I recognize we've got a bunch of people in the audience waiting for items. This is also the ordinance that came up, I think, during comms when we heard from residents that they would like to see some metrics around growth and the kind of development that gets sparked by TIF districts. I'm sympathetic to the basic argument that's done here, that was put on the table. I see Donnie nodding vigorously. Can you help?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to ask Shabri to walk through not only what's been done to date, but also what the action planning process is going to afford as far as that sort of feedback and insight. So please, Shabri.
Thank you so much, Donnie. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Maps, for the question and bringing that up. So when we think about Advanced Portland, which really has guided us, we absolutely have an implementation, not only timeline, but an evaluation process and evaluation framework that asks us to determine, if what we're doing is effective. And so we see that in our State of Portland Economy, which was recently published. And so you have lots of information there specifically about those investments. We continued and will work with the Portland Housing Bureau, who produces their State of Portland Housing Report, and which will then respond to what is also being invested in that space as well. And so we have many different ways that we've been able to share that. We typically will do briefings with your offices and then make certain that we bring that back, and that's available for community as well.
Thank you. I'm still trying to reconcile the concerns I heard with the statement that got put on the table. I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about development in East Portland for years to come. Anyway, don't you want to put a pin in it?
So, Commissioner, if the communications this morning, community leaders that came out were referencing a lot of different spaces where these conversations are happening, correct? And what I guess would offer is this particular moment in time with the creation of these action plan committees is one of the most influential to see real dollars invested in our communities. There's going to be no other spaces we have. Yes, there's a lot of land use opportunities, but from a point of, do you want to set metrics and targets, participation on these committees will be substantially influential. And so when we talk about health and economic vibrancy and housing, those metrics and goals can be set in the action plans. So thankfully, some of the folks that spoke this morning have participated in the TIF process, and hopefully they'll continue to. But we will, for each district, they'll have unique targets for economic and prosperity, housing, affordable housing, home ownership. So those will all be built into each action plan, which we haven't started yet. I guess that's the point.
Great. I appreciate the clarification there.
All right, very good. Anything left for the good of the order? Keelan, please call the roll on item number 923, second reading of a non-emergency ordinance.
Maps,
Aye.
Rubio,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 924, also a second reading.
Maps,
Aye.
Rubio,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 925, second reading.
Maps,
Aye.
Rubio,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 926, second reading.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 927, second reading.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
This one I'd like a little more time on. I'm nay for now.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 928, second reading.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 929, second reading.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 930, a second reading.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 931, a resolution is amended.
Maps.
I want to thank staff for answering the questions that emerged from members of council and the public on this one. Also really appreciate the dialogue with my colleagues. Happy to see that the affordable or the home ownership amendment passes. I do think that this is an historically significant investment in building wealth in East Portland, which is one of the reasons I am glad to vote aye.
Rubio.
I just want to thank everyone for the discussion today, and I'm happy to vote aye.
Ryan.
Yeah, I wanted to pause and just make a couple statements. First of all, we've heard some great testimony last week, and you've all been hearing it for some time. And I think it was also good that we took a pause and really notice how these are different than historic TIF districts. I can tell that we're adjusting and adapting in real time. Heads are nodding. And I also really respected the mayor's caution on why those amendments were last minute. Probably we might regret passing them. So I think that we're being responsive, and I think we have placeholders, and I'm trusting all of you that we can make course corrections as needed. And I'm grateful to have more institutional knowledge, if you will, about this. And I'm also really thrilled, as somebody that was advocating for a long time about the 45% AMI, which is something that we have to take up with the state as well when it comes to affordable housing. I've long advocated for this, so I appreciate the amendment. Affordable housing should be affordable to our working class essential workers. And we really did find out, I think, during COVID, how essential that is and who they are and how many of them can't afford to live here. So I think we're making some right steps in terms of adjustment for that. I just hope that we encourage to pay close attention to this implementation. So I really hope that there will continue to be this type of transparent dialogue between the council and all of you who answered these questions so well today. And you can tell that you've been in them. And so I appreciated that dialogue. As we plan for these investments in neighborhoods, it's important that we make plans to align with our overall city vision. And the conversation today brought more of those highlights to our concerns were more demonstrated in our policy than it was in previous TIF district dialogues. So I think we're on to something here. And I appreciate all of you on staff that have been working together so well to deliver this product today. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Thanks for the work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Before I vote, I'd like to pass the gavel or the mic to Commissioner Rubio, who had an additional comment.
I apologize. I forgot to make my thank yous and remarks really briefly. These investments, the amount of local resources that we're sitting bring new life and opportunities into our central city and East Portland, and they're significant. And they are, as the mayor said last week, they're generational. And when we say words like significant and generational, we really mean it. These districts will provide a steady stream of resources to the tune of more than $2.5 billion over the next several decades to fund these community priorities. So this was a huge undertaking at a pivotal moment, and I want to say thank you to everyone who testified, but in particular those that are on the steering committee and working groups. We hope that you'll continue to engage in the governance process, including those of you who are still skeptical of the tool and the co-creation process. I understand this skepticism. It comes with good reasons, as we've heard, and we really hope that you continue to lean into this work. Now, just very quickly, I want to thank the staff at Prosper Portland. Wow. Kimberly Branham, Shay, Lisa, Shabri, Justin, Tony Barnes, Catherine, Roger, Dana, Kiana, Hope, David, Allison, Brian, Sarah, Robert, Sean, Yume, Lisa, Pam, Amy, and the amazing facilitator, Camille Trumer. And in the Housing Bureau, Helmi, Jesse, Antoinette, Raul, David, and Gabriel. And also my staff, Christina Gunn, Angela Rico, and Andrew Fitzpatrick, and the mayor's team, who are all involved in this process along the way, and numerous other city bureaus and staff that had a role. This was a huge undertaking, and I do not want to understate that, and really appreciate how you have been learning from years in the past and really being intentional. And it's not perfect, but we're learning and we're continuing to apply those learnings. And of course, Donnie, I want to thank you so much as well for diving into this role and driving this as well. And I'll close it out with Mayor. I just wanted to thank you so much as well and your team. They've been a really great collaborator and partner from the beginning. So thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, I will support the resolution. There's been a tremendous amount of work that's gone into this, both city staff as well as in the community. I particularly want to thank Prosper Portland and the team at Prosper Portland, as well as the Housing Bureau. All of you guys have done a fantastic job, and I greatly appreciate all of the staff work that's gone into this. Our city employees never fail to amaze me with the level of passion and the amount of detail that they come with. So thank you for your great leadership. I didn't win on the amendment side of the vote, but that's really the smaller point to much greater and really truly fantastic work around the resolution. While I respectfully disagreed with my colleagues on the amendments, the discussion was fantastic, and I think it was meaningful, and I appreciate it. I vote aye. The resolution is adopted. Colleagues, just a heads up, my understanding is we are going to lose the quorum at noon. So I know we've been at this for a while. I'd like us to continue to push forward and at least try to get through the time certains. Anything we do not complete, I would like to move to the end of today's agenda this afternoon. So prepare for a late evening. Next item, please, is a time certain item. It is 932.
Interesting timing.
Declare support to rename Southwest Jackson Street to Southwest Rose Hill Street and approve the Public Works Deputy City Administrator to assign staff and resources to process the application.
Commissioner Maps.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, I am honored to introduce this resolution in partnership with Portland State University. Here is some background on the item before us today. Now, last year, Portland State University approached my office with a request. They asked the city to rename a section of Southwest Jackson Street to Southwest Rose Hill Street. This change seeks to honor Rose Hill, a respected Indigenous leader and former student coordinator at Portland State University's Native American Student and Community Center. For Indigenous students and community members, renaming this street represents more than just a new signpost. It's a meaningful step towards cultivating belonging and representation on campus. And can we go to the next slide, please, which I think should be the purpose slide. There you go. Thank you, Keelan. When PSU approached my office, PBOT had paused street renaming applications due to staffing constraints. However, given the significance and unique circumstances behind PSU's request, I brought this resolution forward to PBOT, and PBOT is asking to make an exception and process PSU's application in accordance with city code. Next up, I'd like to invite our Deputy City Administrator for Public Works to come up and tell us about the process the city uses to rename streets. Welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. For the record, I'm Priya Dhanapal. I'm the Deputy City Administrator for Public Works, which includes the Portland Bureau of Transportation, the bureau responsible for street naming efforts under Title 17 in City Code. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the process for renaming streets. The renaming of city streets is governed by Chapter 17.93 of the City Code, which provides specific structured guidelines, which is detailed and involved due to the impact this has on residents and businesses. To rename a street, an application must be submitted to the city engineer, demonstrating compliance with the criteria listed in the code. The applicant must also gather support through petition with either 2,500 signatures from the city residents or support from at least 75% of adjacent property owners. The application will also have to be reviewed by a panel of 3 historians, and neighborhood and business associations will also be notified for input. The city engineer will prepare a budget impact statement, and the city auditor will conduct a postcard survey of adjacent property owners, and the results will be presented to the city's Planning and Sustainability Commission, which will hold a public hearing for community feedback. Finally, the City Council will hold its own public hearing to decide whether to approve or deny the proposal. It's important to note that for this renaming in particular, certain exemptions will need to be made from the standard city code requirements. And 2 key exemptions that stand out for me are the street can only be named after an individual who has been deceased for at least 5 years, but here the honoree is still alive. And the second requirement is that the entire street must be renamed, while this proposal envisions renaming just Southwest Jackson Street on PSU campus. So to address these exceptions, our council will need to formally approve them during a public hearing. Additionally, I want to highlight that the changes to Title 17 are scheduled to be heard on November 13th. And it's my understanding that all the steps that I shared will remain in place, except for the final step, where the city's planning commissioner will forward a recommendation to the city administrator instead of the city council for final approval or denial of the proposal. It is also my responsibility to inform you that, as Commissioner Mapps mentioned, PBOT has currently paused efforts on street naming due to limited resources and in an effort to balance the many competing needs in our city, all of which are incredibly important. But I appreciate the proposed resolution acknowledges this and proposes that the application be processed as an exception. With that being said, I acknowledge the significance of the resolution and the community's interest in it. And if directed by this council, I will ensure that the established process is followed with necessary engagement with the community and all stakeholders and handling of code exemptions. So thank you for the opportunity to discuss the street naming process.
Thank you so much, Deputy City Administrator. Now, I'd like 2 things. One, can we advance the slide? And 2, I'd like to invite up I think our panel who will present with us today. So we have Tabitha in the room, Trevano, Siriana.
And Commissioner Mapps, while she's not on the panel, I do want to acknowledge that we have PSU President Ann Cudd with us this morning. We thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. It's great to see you as always. Let me say a few more words before I turn it over to our panel. So colleagues, you'll see a map in front of us. The portion of Southwest Jackson Street we propose to rename stretches from Southwest 5th Avenue to Southwest Park Avenue, right in the heart of PSU's campus, where the university is the primary abutting property owner. My office has reached out to other property owners along these 3 short blocks, keeping them informed of this initiative and the careful thought that has gone into it. And now I'd like to turn the rest of the presentation over to our distinguished panel. Welcome and thank you for your patience today. I know we're a little bit behind schedule, but we are deeply appreciative of you being here.
Nick Spikesky, Ted, Mr. Mayor, and the council. My name is Tabitha Whitefoot, and I am a member of the Yakama Nation. I grew up in Portland, graduated from Lewis and Clark College, and returned to the city in 1996. Rose was campaigning for a Native Center for students in the greater Portland Native community, efforts that started well before 1990. We opened on October 24th, 2003, after 10 years of monthly, weekly, to bi-weekly local meetings of an essentially volunteer committee. The building has a unique appearance and many beautiful pieces of art and sculpture by Native people. We developed a program that stopped the revolving door of our Native students in and out of the university. We built a vibrant home with elders, children, and community always welcome. On any given day, students might meet national, regional, or local leaders, neighbors, or spokespeople from Indian country. There were presentations, events, and traditional gatherings that encouraged a diverse vision that influenced student futures. I can only speak from our cohorts, but we can claim among our graduates professionals and leaders who are working in multiple school districts and universities nationwide, and many who hold important roles at their tribal homes in counseling services, traditional food gathering, administration, and agencies like NARA and NAYA, Multnomah County, and the state of Oregon, or federal programs such as the Indian Health Service, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. There are world-recognized artists, a MacArthur Genius Fellow, environmental leaders, businessmen, and all the other roles that make a positive impact to Indian country. The building is only as vibrant as the programs and ability to cement relationships is nourished. My favorite part of the building is that it creates lifelong connections for students. They are at the ready to help one another. They are leaders in every regard, and that happens in the time and place of the NASCC at Portland State University. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, next slide.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Trevina Bringsplenny, Minikoja Lakota, and I'm enrolled in the Shenandoah Sioux tribe. I've been in the Portland area since 1991, and I am currently at Portland State University as their Native American Student Services Coordinator. And so we had this conversation when I first got on board at PSU with our then building manager, Robert Franklin, Navajo Nation, and Jay Molnar, Choctaw Nation. The milieu that we created in the Native American Student Community Center is one of continued education in real time with students who have learned what they have in the classroom, brought their own lived experiences, and they're in the community center, either as workers or students just hanging out and enjoying the conversations that we have and building community with those students and helping them retain at PSU as they finish their degree. In those conversations, as I got on board, I wondered about the name Jackson Street. Is it what I think it is? Is it Andrew Jackson Street? And with that, I had to go and do some research, look online. There are two different Jackson Streets, Sam Jackson Street going up to OHSU, and of course, President Andrew Jackson. And we do have the history of Andrew Jackson and the relationship and why it became ironic in some extent that Andrew Jackson, US president, was also had negotiated the removal of treaties, which led to the relocation of 500 Native Americans to Indian country or Indian territories and what is now Oklahoma. For those folks, the Trail of Tears is for the Cherokee Nation and maybe perhaps the five civilized tribe. Those relationships were under the head of Andrew Jackson, led by Andrew Jackson, 1930s going on, and that long walk, 1,000 miles over 4 months. Approximately 4,000 of the 16,000 Cherokees perished along the way, and along with the other tribal members. And I bring up that distinct Cherokee history and those five civilized tribes because we know here in Oregon the tribes here have their own Trail of Tears being relocated, removed, displaced. And so I want to say this is the relationship with Andrew Jackson. And so a place of education where we can talk about these historical issues, facts, and also put that into terms of contemporary Indian country news today, right? And so how does this affect us? That we can talk about Andrew Jackson, which, in talking with Cherokee friends of mine, they will not carry, if they do carry cash, they will not carry a $20 bill with them because it has Andrew Jackson's face on it. And so what that indicates, the other name that Indians have for Andrew Jackson is Indian killer. And so, well, as a slave owner as well, the name, the Indian killer, that becomes a generative discussion that we have among Native American Alaska Native students and those relationships and ongoing settler colonialism as in addendum to their education that they receive here as well. So we can conceptualize for them how they got here, what are their conditions now, and where did that condition come from? And so the idea that the Andrew Jackson's right there where Native American Student Community Center is located, the center itself is far off on campus, our own little not ideal land reservation. This becomes a generative conversation about the PSU as an institution of a microcosm of U.S. society and how we can see how the pushes and pulls of history, economics play on all of us here as we start to develop our educational needs and abilities. And of course, within the historical context, working with Native students where they are now, how would they be and give back to their community as well, or their nation if they decide to return home, because as Native folks, we always return home. And so having that conversation, this is not my ancestral territory, right? And so I'm, I wouldn't say guest because guests are invited. I'm here. And so what I can do is give back to folks information, history, help folks. I come along students in their journey towards their degree completion, fill in all the things as they can. A short amount of time I'm with them. And so hopefully when they graduate, they can transform either if they stay in the city, the state, or go back to their nations as well. And so I think we're having discussions about Indian killers, names, just for this small stretch of land on the street here in Portland. We're not expanding that further into the citywide or the states or the streets or bridges themselves that have Indian killer names. We're just focused here. This is the initiative, and I think it becomes a great opportunity for all of us to make this transformative change for the small stretch of street. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next slide.
Is that working?
Yes.
Haumitakiapi, Petu Ashte, greetings relatives. It's a good day to be here with you all. My name is Serena Fast Horse. I'm Suchangu Lakota and Amskapi Pakani, or Blackfeet, and I am a lifelong member of the Indigenous community of Portland. I have strong ties to the Portland State University Indigenous community as an alum of the Indigenous Nation Studies program. While I was a student there, I worked at the Native American Student Community Center as a front desk staff worker and an event worker. I also served as the co-coordinator for the United Indigenous Students in Higher Education and as a mentee and mentor for the Native Student Retention Program. Today, I'm still at PSU. I work at the Institute for Tribal Government as a co-director for one of the programs we have. In 2022, I was called on by PSU leadership to bring together a renaming committee for Jackson Street. This effort was a response to community advocacy and coalition momentum building. With a great sense of responsibility and care, I took on this task. I gathered a group of Indigenous community members who were former or current students, staff, and faculty at PSU, as well as Indigenous community members who had experience in previous naming or renaming processes. This formed the Native American Student Community Center Street Rename Committee. With a total of 17 members, this committee was tasked with identifying a new name for the home street of the Native American Student Community Center that reflects and uplifts the values of our communities. During our virtual meetings, we developed community guidelines for our work, familiarized ourselves with city policies, and created a community-informed process for renaming. We identified a list of 12 names for community members to vote on using an online poll. We received hundreds of votes in the first round, which served to narrow down the options. This process culminated in an in-person voting opportunity at the Native American Student Community Center 20th anniversary celebration last November 2023. We received 65 in-person votes, and Rose Hill received the vast majority of those votes. Rose Hill was in attendance that day and was highly celebrated throughout the event for all that she's contributed to our community and the Native Center in particular. And our next speaker will tell you more about how amazing Rose is. So yeah, Wapila, thank you. Next slide.
Kahani Weste. My name is Sandy B. Allman, and I currently work for the Native American Rehabilitation Association of the Northwest. I have been a lifelong Portland resident, born and raised. I am honored to be here to speak on behalf of Rose Hill and share a little bit that I can in my 2 minutes of her long and amazing work here in our Native American community. I met Rose in the mid 80s when she was working with the Portland Area Indian Health Board. She later moved to the once beloved American Indian Associations of Portland, which acted as a Native council represented by all Native organizations. Their leadership, their executive director or designee would be a part of this board, if you will. Rose became the executive director of that organization and for several years. Rose went on to, I believe, the next step was working at PSU, basically in the role that she ended up last at. She then also moved to work at the National Indian Child Welfare Association in Portland. I'm sorry, National Indian Child Welfare Association. Then from there, she moved on to working at NAR Northwest. The iconic little side pieces, I followed in her footsteps. Maybe I job stalked her, I don't know, but Rose was amazing in everything she did. In every job she was, she left on good terms, moved on to what she wanted to do. And when she left NICWA, she went on to work back at Portland State, which was her love. And what I will just say, what I think is really evident, the thousands of students, Native American and others, because she didn't stop there, that she assisted and helped, whether that was advocating for them, helping with that next step, helping people who come from, these young people from their reservations or from across the country, helping them feel a place of a home, a place of their welcome, making sure they were fed, making sure that the community, the other members of the community were aware of the need of supporting the students. Every time she spoke at something, it was about supporting the students. Rose is well known. Rose is highly respected. Rose is our cultural, one of our culture keepers at NAR Northwest. And no one cannot think nothing but the best from Rose. What she brings when she walks into a room is so amazing. And you'll see that as you meet her. So I'd like to thank you for hearing us, and I hope respecting Rose as she deserves.
Thank you so much. And I believe, do we have, is Rose going to come up?
Yeah.
Ms. Hill, please join us at the table.
Welcome.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Okay, let's see how this works. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Welcome, Ms. Hill. We're honored to have
I
you with us
know,
today.
this is something. This is amazing. I've got a few crib notes so I don't lose my place.
Okay.
I want to, first of all, say hello to the mayor and everyone, and just a pleasure to be here today. And I'll do my best to keep it short. I'm not known for being short, but yeah, no, I'm a rambling Rose, definitely. So, so here is something I never thought would happen. Never in a million years did I ever think that there would be a street named after me. It's just one of those very, it just take you by surprise kind of moments. And so when I was thinking of preparing some remarks for you today, I thought of how to tell you, some of you may remember Paul Harvey, and the rest of the story.
Sure.
So I'm going to fill you in just a little bit about the rest of the story because, you know, it takes a lot of people to build a center and to be involved the way that we were for many years to get that beautiful center built. But the rest of the story is that when I was um, a student here, I became the coordinator for the USHE, United Indian Students in Higher Education. And it was during the summer, and we had to clean out the office. So I found a flyer that talked about how the native or how the Asian community were able to pull themselves together and develop a culture center. And so I wrote a letter to Bud Clark, remember him, and asked, why don't we have a Native American center? And I never expected an answer, actually. I was just posing some questions, sort of based on what the Asian community had developed, and wondered why we didn't have one, why our community did not have a place to gather, a place to be together, to share, and why the students at PSU, because at that time, my responsibility was to make sure that freshman students did not go home, that we did not have a revolving door, which was what was happening. So I never thought there'd be an answer, but there was. And what happened is they had I'm not quite sure what the word is, but they had a way of hiring someone. They had a feasibility study. And Fred Cooper, he's an engineer here in town, and he won that bid and hired me to work with the community. And that was my very first introduction. This is 1984, 85. I graduated in 85 from Portland State. And that summer, I worked with Mr. Cooper, and we developed a feasibility study about what there could be for a community center. And we presented it. It didn't go anywhere, but that's okay. It was just one of those steps. So later on, when I was involved with American Indian Association of Portland, we talked again about why don't we have a community center? And then it was Vera Katz's turn to work with the community. So we had a couple of mayors in there that were interested, but you know, the steps were not always easy. And people were flowing in and out. You know, people came and left, and it was just a difficult time for everyone at that moment because we did get some land out at Delta Park, and we thought of building a powwow arbor, but it didn't quite take. So when I got the job at PSU, I posed it again. Why don't we have a community center for our students and community? And this time it seemed to grab hold and we just ran with it. It was really an amazing thing. So we involved the students, the community, and the tribes. You can't leave out the tribes because they really supported everything we did. And I think there was a picture of Cheryl Kennedy. You probably may know who she is. She's still, I think, the chairman for the Grand Ronde tribe. And the other people I'd like to acknowledge is Jean Bollin, who developed a scholarship for our Native students and was a strong supporter. And we turned to her on many occasions, just getting her involvement and getting her approval. We really listened to her. And Jean Owl was another lady that supported us financially. And then there were other people like Judith Ramaley. We cannot leave her out. And she was a former president of Portland State. And she really liked the Indian students too, gave us a lot of different opportunities. So, you know, it doesn't seem like, it seems like the center is there people take advantage of all the opportunities that are there, but it has a beginning from 1985, I would say. So it's not an easy process. And one of the things that I learned as I traveled through this is that you take an idea and you don't give up on it and you let it go through time, and you have your idea and then you have the reality of that idea. And I saw you doing that with the Cully neighborhood and all of the various factors that are going on with that. But it is a truly remarkable situation that I've lasted this long, and I'm able to see the actual results of it, and I'm going to have a street. And I'm replacing Andrew Jackson, the Indian killer. So, hey, how about that? How about that?
And
Next slide. What do I do next?
And I believe we might have one more testifier today. Do we have Xavier? Hey, welcome. Thank you, Xavier.
Good to be here.
Good morning, at least I think it's still morning. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Xavier D. Stickler, and I'm the Vice President of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, a student of architecture and urban planning at Portland State University, and a person of Indigenous and mixed-race heritage. Needless to say, I'm quite excited to be here. The Downtown Neighborhood Association, which represents nearly 800 Portlanders who reside, work, go to school, or own a business in Portland's downtown, call upon you as the City Council to authorize the formal process of renaming Southwest Jackson Street to Southwest Rose Hills Street. Presently named for President Andrew Jackson, Jackson Street in the downtown travels east from Southwest Park Avenue to Southwest Fifth Avenue, passing Portland State's Native American Student and Community Center. It is the opinion of the DNA that it is unacceptable and improper for our city's cornerstone space for members of the Native community to be on a street the name for which honors a man who was instrumental in perpetuating systemic violence against this marginalized community. Honor, respect, and even tolerance of genocide and genocidaires have no place in our community or in the year 2024. Portland's street names are integral to its identity and sense of place. Where would we be without Hawthorne, without Burnside, without MLK? And to be memorialized in a street is a signifier of positive contribution to our community. It is a position of honor. With the life and vibrancy that each street fosters, the legacy of its namesake becomes more and more dignified. Some of Portland's streets are titled for great people, many after merely propertied men. But for the vast majority, it could at least be argued that they left a positive impact on our city. For President Jackson, slave owner, white supremacist, would-be tyrant, killer, this is simply not the case. For Rose Hill, an educator, a guide, a creator, a champion of community and knowledge, this is emphatically the case. Rose Hill will have left Portland better than she found it. Knowing this, following the process previously described by my fellow speakers, on September 24th, the board of the DNA voted unanimously to adopt the following resolution. Quote, with the context of the participation of President Andrew Jackson in the historic genocide of Indigenous peoples, and understanding that Portland street names are meant to honor those with a positive influence on our city, and an acknowledgement of Rose Hill's passionate contributions to Native students at PSU, the DNA endorses the renaming of Southwest Jackson Street in the downtown to Southwest Rose Hill Street, end quote. The DNA, in partnership with the District 4 Coalition of Neighborhoods, is ready, willing, and eager to assist in the gathering of signatures necessary to complete this process and further engage the community. This segment of public right-of-way is only 3 blocks long, and a renaming will affect very few properties, but will result in a tremendously positive symbolic impact to the downtown area, the PSU community, and our Indian neighbors. We urge City Council to formally authorize the renaming process of Jackson Street and prioritize allowing city staff to proceed with reviewing and moving forward with the documentation necessary to complete this task. By moving forward with this resolution, you move our city forward away from the past and into the future. You will help create a space that in our central city that is for everyone, that will honor the people who have been here since time immemorial and are still here, that is a place that we can all be proud of. The Portland of tomorrow is one that elevates voices and missions of people exactly like Rose Hill. And with this vote, that tomorrow can start now. Thank you for your time and consideration. Next slide, please.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, I believe that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Great presentation. Keelan, do we have any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
This is a resolution. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Maps.
I just want to thank, number one, everyone in the audience we have. For those of you who are watching at home, we have a packed house of folks who are excited about this. In particular, I want to thank President Cudd and the entire Portland State University community for supporting this. The Downtown Neighborhood Association has been great, and everyone else who contributed to making this moment a reality. I also want to take a moment to recognize my staff, Deputy Chief of Staff Cynthia Castro, for her leadership on this project. My policy advisor, Jackson Paul, has done amazing work in this space too. Also want to recognize PBOT staff, Wendy Crawley, Matt Grum, and Senior Deputy City Attorney Ken McGarr. Keelan has been exceptionally helpful in this space. And finally, I want to recognize former Tribal Relations Manager Adam Vicente. Together, these folks made this resolution possible, which is why I am so proud to have brought this forward. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Rubio.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps, for bringing this project forward. Renaming the street after Ms. Rose Hill is a wonderful and fitting tribute for this leader's impact in our city and our community. Ms. Hill, thank you for your lifetime of advocacy and mentorship and love that you've shared with this community. You honor our city with your legacy, and it will continue to be felt for generations to come. I also want to give a deep appreciation to our panelists and the leaders who are behind this project and continuing to move it forward. And thank you to PSU and the Downtown Neighborhood Association for their support. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Maps, and your staff leader, who I think was driving this for the most part. Thank you, Cynthia Castro, for that. I appreciate the panel that was up here, Tabitha Whitefoot, Tavino Briggs Plenty. Thank you for the history that you provided in your presentation. And Sandy B. Allman, thank you for Serena Fast Horse, but actually you moved the work, and it was really good to hear about that process. And Sandy B. Allman on behalf of Rose Hill. And Rose, ramble all you want. It was inspiring. You are an inspiration. It was great to hear about Gene Bollum. I was actually at PSU at that time. And basically, this is a good catch. I can't believe it wasn't caught earlier. And it's very healing when these are caught. And so we needed to take time with that because this was under the category of should have seen this earlier. And so thank you, PSU's president, for being here today. It shows a lot of enthusiasm from our downtown university that serves our entire state to be here present. Anyway, this feels really good. It's very healing. And I appreciate all of you for being here. Today, we're doing the right thing. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
I just want to thank Commissioner Maps and his team for bringing this forward, and Ms. Rose Hill for creating a space for acceptance is just so essential in this day and age, particularly on college campuses. And so thanks so much for what you do. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Thank you, everybody who presented today. This was a terrific panel. I learned quite a few things, and I appreciate the leadership that's being provided. I'll thank all the same people that my colleagues thank. President Cudd, thank you and your team for being here and showing your support, the Downtown Business Association, all the community members who have done so much to make this process a reality, the start of the process. Rose Hill, thank you for being here today and giving us all an opportunity to hear a little bit from you personally as well. I vote aye. The resolution is adopted.
Mr. Mayor, I know we're tight on time. Can we do a photo?
Sure.
President Cudd, we would be honored if the room.
Folks, just a little bit of housekeeping here. We are going to move the pulled items from the consent agenda, which include items 935 and 937. We'll move those to the afternoon agenda. Similarly, we will move the regular agenda to the end of this afternoon session. So that's 941, 942, 943, 944, and 945 will all be moved to the end of this afternoon's session. With that, we will now read item number 933.
Proclaim October 2024 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Colleagues, this is a proclamation, as you just heard, recognizing October of 2024 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. To begin, I'll pass this to Commissioner Mapps to introduce today's proclamation and presenters. I apologize. I have a press conference, so I have a hard out, but I leave you in very, very able hands with Commissioner Mapps.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and we appreciate the fact that you need to leave. Colleagues, guests, I am honored to join you in proclaiming October 2024 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in Portland, Oregon. Now, as some of you know, during my time on this council, I lost my mother to breast cancer. That loss resonates with me literally every day. And I am not alone. Many Portlanders have faced similar pain, which brings us to the proclamation before us today. This proclamation serves as a call to recognize the thousands of Portlanders affected by breast cancer. This proclamation also urges us to support those currently in treatment. And this proclamation is a reminder to remember those that we have lost to breast cancer. Now, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we reaffirm our commitment to raising awareness, honoring survivors, and standing with the medical professionals, advocates, and caregivers who dedicate their lives to advancing care and support. Today, we are honored to be joined by a distinguished panel who will tell us more about this fight against this dreaded disease. It's now my honor to turn this presentation over to our first speaker, Ann Berryman with Pink Lemonade. Welcome.
Thank you. Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to be in front of you. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Pink Lemonade Project. Pink Lemonade Project began with humble roots in 2010 by 4 individuals who heard repeatedly from breast cancer patients, what does my new normal look like after treatment? And so they formed the organization and began with retreats, support groups, and mentors to help those along that journey. Today, we provide a full continuum of support, so education, outreach, screening, financial assistance, mental, social, psychological, and emotional support. So from the point of diagnosis through treatment, or if you're living with metastatic breast cancer, which is advanced breast cancer. I bring this forward because 1 in 7 people will be diagnosed in this region in their lifetime. 15% are genetic diagnoses, 30% will experience a recurrence, and 45 to 48,000 people lose their lives every year to this disease. That has not changed. What Pink Lemonade Project is on the ground, bootstrapped on, working with communities, listening, learning, being culturally sensitive, and working to better the lives, to improve screening rates, to drive down late-stage diagnoses, and hopefully provide a greater quality of life for those that live in Oregon and Southwest Washington. That's our service territory. So I'm here before you because Breast Cancer Awareness Month is so important. We are incredibly busy, but we are fighting this disease, which is a leading cause of death and major illness for women, and men get breast cancer too. So I don't want to discount that. So we are working every day tirelessly to provide a full continuum of resources for all communities, not just select communities. We are here for everyone. And so today we are a $1.2 million organization serving almost 3,200 people annually. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited for you to hear from some of our other folks on the panel, and let's recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Who's up next?
Thank you. Oh. Thank you so much to the mayor and the council for inviting me today to take part in this important proclamation. My name is Dr. Jamie Keck. I've been at OHSU for 12 years. I started in a cancer research laboratory under Dr. Brian Drucker. However, following a very difficult experience of helping my mother navigate cancer care, I changed my course and decided to work on a clinical trial to sequence advanced cancers and identify targeted treatments. Currently, I am the Senior Manager of Clinical Genomics for the SMART Treatments Program at OHSU. I am here today to make sure individuals know that with cancer, know that we have resources for them. It's a pleasure to be here today alongside breast cancer survivors, our collaborators with the Pink Lemonade Project, with Amanda, a member of the Night Cancer Research Advocates team, and thanks to my fellow panelists for all you do to help people experiencing breast cancer. The OHSU Cancer Institute supports the health and well-being of those in Oregon and beyond. It's the Institute's vision to remove the burden of cancer from the world. Through innovation, collaborative research, and education, we provide prevention, detection, and care one person at a time. We have more than 400 clinical trials to test new therapies and approaches. CEDAR, our center that focuses on early detection, gives us hope that we can better detect and treat cancer in the earliest stages before it advances by developing novel technologies and clinical trials, such as the Healthy Organs Project. The flagship project of the Knight Cancer Institute's Precision Oncology Division is the SMART Clinical Trials Program. SMART is an innovative way of doing clinical trials for patients with advanced cancer who aren't responding to standard of care. What is unique about our program is that we analyze DNA, RNA, and protein on multiple biopsies in order to adapt a patient's therapy before resistance occurs. We have multiple breast clinical trials available, and if you are interested in learning more, please go to our website at OHSU Smart Clinical Trials, and SMART spelled with 2 M's. The work of the Knight Cancer Institute extends beyond providing care and doing research. The community also partners with us in many ways, such as the Knight Research Advocates Program, which Amanda is a part of, and you'll hear from her soon. The program plays a key role in efforts such as organizing youth events, participating in tumor boards, they join our SMART tumor boards, and collaborating on grant submissions. The research advocates bring a critical dimension of lived experience with cancer that benefits both our researchers and the broader community. It is an honor to be here today, and thank you again, council members, for bringing awareness to this important cause.
Thank you. Who's up next?
I'm Amanda Hynum.
Hey, Amanda.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, Commissioner Mapps, I'm sorry for your loss. I also am a City of Portland employee. And thank you all for the opportunity just to share a few insights with you about breast cancer. I wasn't really sure the direction to go, so I just wrote a brief thing. Many people think of breast cancer as a single disease, when in reality it encompasses multiple distinct types of cancers, each originating in the breast. Some are more aggressive than others, and some are more insidious. Something which is often overlooked socially, that you just touched on, which is fantastic, is the fact that men too can get breast cancer. The stigma around it means men often aren't screened or diagnosed until the disease is more advanced. Some of the most significant disparities in breast cancer survival outcomes in the US are seen among Black women, women under 40, and men. Commonly cited survival statistics can be misleading, as they typically only encompass 5-year post-diagnosis survival rates. This means emphasis on early detection alongside these 5-year survival outcomes may paint an incomplete picture of a patient's long-term experience and mortality risk.
Today I hope, I was able to shed a little light on the complexity of breast cancer. I'd also like to acknowledge the unique challenges each patient faces as the path is different for everyone. I was personally diagnosed 11 years ago. Thank you again for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. And next up, welcome.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for having me here. My name is Nikhil Surya, and I'm a freshman at St. Stephen's Academy. Today, I want to talk to you about breast cancer awareness and the importance of early detection. I'm going to do this by sharing a personal story about my mom, a breast cancer survivor. My mom's journey is not only a powerful reminder of hope, but also highlights the importance of being informed and getting help on time. My mom decided to schedule her mammogram a few years ago, thanks to campaigns like Breast Cancer Awareness Month. At first, we were relieved when the results came back negative, but a report showed she had dense breast tissue. Dense tissue can make it harder for doctors to spot cancer on a mammogram. Because of this, her doctor recommended additional testing, specifically an MRI. I am thankful for the doctor's advice because the MRI revealed the cancer that the mammogram had missed. This diagnosis changed our lives, but catching it early made all the difference in her treatment and recovery. Without that MRI, my mom might not be here today. This experience opened my eyes to how critical it is for everyone to be informed about their breast health. Unfortunately, many people face additional challenges in getting information and healthcare they need due to language barriers and economic issues, such as access to health insurance. These barriers can lead to delays in diagnosis and treatment, which is why awareness efforts are essential. I strongly advocate for spreading knowledge about regular screenings like mammograms and understanding when additional testing like an MRI is necessary. According to the National Cancer Institute, nearly 1 in 2 women have dense breast tissue, which can impact how well mammograms work. In fact, mammograms can miss 30 to 50% of breast cancers in people with dense tissue, making additional screenings like MRIs or ultrasounds really important for those at higher risk. Since September 10th, 2024, the FDA requires mammogram reports to include information about breast density. This knowledge helps doctors and patients, like my mom, understand when to pursue additional testing. My mom's story shows just how vital this information is. I cannot imagine my life without my mom, and thanks to awareness and early detection, I don't have to. This is why Breast Cancer Awareness Month matters. It encourages conversations about early detection and breast health. When breast cancer is caught early, the survival rate is an incredible 99%. While my mom is a survivor, I recognize and honor the many families who have fought fiercely and faced profound loss. Each story reinforces the urgency of our message. Today, I ask for your commitment to spread awareness and promote proactive screening, because every conversation we have can make a positive difference in our community. I urge those who need screenings to schedule their routine mammograms. If results indicate you have dense breast tissue, it's crucial to talk to your doctor about your individual risk factors and whether additional testing is right for you. I encourage everyone to educate themselves and others about breast health and advocate for necessary screenings for the well-being of our entire community. Let's also recognize and support organizations like the Pink Lemonade Project and local health providers in Portland for offering valuable resources and support for those seeking information or assistance. Breast cancer affects us all, and together we can transform awareness into action and hope into healing. Thank you for your attention and for standing with me in this important cause.
Thank you. Excellent testimony. Colleagues, the mayor is out of the room, so I am the person charged with reading the proclamation today. But before I do, I want to take a moment to see if anyone would like to share some thoughts.
Mr. Ryan, we'll just work down the line.
Okay,
if that's
thanks.
okay.
I just want to say thank you to the panel. That was really a wonderful presentation, and really you're great at testimony. You have a bright future ahead of you. I think a lot of us have experienced the loss of dear friends and family members, and I think I was reflecting on the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, and from detection to survival to demise to death. And it's because of groups like yours, and now with the Knight Center as a partner, you're really building a great system here in Portland area, and so we can really lead in the healing and the progress for this very grim disease and the outcomes that we want to see improve, and they are. Because I was reflecting on what it was like for someone in the 80s especially, who I was really close with, and then someone in the aughts, and there is progress. But I just want to thank all of you for being part of that system and continuing to show up and keep improving it. And so thank you for having us pause, and a good reason to wear pink today. Thanks.
I just want to thank you all for testifying and calling attention. We've all been touched, unfortunately, by this horrible cancer in different ways in my family, among dear friends, and it's heartbreaking every time. Um, but thank you for testifying today, all of you, and calling attention. And let's keep focused on prevention and supporting those who navigate this. Thank you.
So I want to thank Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Matz for bringing this forward. And I also want to thank all of you as panelists for sharing your very personal stories and your convictions about this very important health issue. And Nikhil, I just want to say you had very excellent remarks. So very good job. First, I think it's also important to reiterate what some of you have said about anyone can get breast cancer. It doesn't matter who you are, what language you speak, or your income level. We are all subject to getting this very devastating disease. And in fact, more than, I think, 360,000 people across the country will be diagnosed this year. And unfortunately, in the Pacific Northwest, we're above the average, I think, nationally. But when it's caught early, as you've all testified, the survival rate increases and is very encouraging. So it's very important days like today for us to come together and continue to lift that up. I want to just give a big appreciation to the Pink Lemonade Project, as well as OHSU Night Cancer Institute, for all that you're doing to educate the community and eradicate this devastating disease. So let's keep spreading that awareness, and I look forward to the day that this disease is gone for good. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. President, if it's okay with you, I would like to now read the proclamation.
Go right ahead.
Well, thank you. Whereas October is globally recognized as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and aims to raise awareness and to educate about breast health and breast cancer, which is a leading cause of death in women in the world. The month also recognizes the many survivors, those living with metastatic breast cancer, their supporters, and loved ones, and honors those lives lost to this disease. And whereas in the Pacific Northwest, 1 in 7 women are affected by breast cancer, when the national average is 1 in 8 women. And breast cancer also affects 1% of men. Only 15% of diagnoses are related to family history. 20 to 30% of those diagnosed with early disease will experience a recurrence. And whereas there are still too many health disparities among underserved communities by income, geography, insurance, race, ethnicity, age, and gender, who are disproportionately affected by this disease. And whereas racial disparities have been prominent for over a decade due to low screening rates and healthcare inequities, Black women have a 4% lower incidence rate of breast cancer than white women, but a 40% lower survival rate. Asian and Pacific Islander women are 17% less likely to be diagnosed. And whereas men and people assigned male at birth can also get breast cancer, but are less likely to report symptoms and are often not diagnosed until later stages of cancer than women and people assigned female at birth. And whereas Pink Lemonade Project, a Washington-based nonprofit organization, is on a mission to educate, empower, and support all communities affected by breast cancer with vital outreach, education, screening, financial assistance, support groups, mentors, and books across Oregon and Southwest Washington. And whereas the OHSU Night Cancer Institute works to free the world from the burden of cancer, one patient at a time, every year, The Institute treats about 6,000 patients and conducts roughly 1,400 research projects, including more than 400 clinical trials for patients with cancer. Its community partnership program has invested nearly $7.7 million in 216 projects across Oregon, and members of Knight Scientific Research Advocates draw on their personal experiences with cancer to help shape research priorities and outcomes. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite the community and spread important messages of early detection, screening, and prevention and assistance to women and men before, during, and after a diagnosis, to increase health equity, reduce the number of new diagnoses, to increase survivorship, and improve everyone's quality of life. And whereas early detection through regular screenings, including mammograms, significantly increases survival rates, with early stage breast cancer having a 99% survival rate. And whereas women can learn about their breast density through mammogram reports, as mandated by Oregon and Washington's breast density notification law, and whereas dense breast tissue can obscure tumors on mammograms, increasing the risk of mixed diagnoses, therefore, supplemental MRI or breast ultrasounds may be vital for enhancing detection in women with dense breasts, particularly those at higher risk of breast cancer. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim October 2024 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Portland, and encourage all residents to observe this month and participate in activities that promote awareness, support research, and prioritize regular screenings for early detection and fight against breast cancer. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us here today.
So thank you. This item was placed on file and there's no council action required at this point. Colleagues would like to reiterate that due to scheduled absences and loss of quorum, we will be moving the pulled consent agenda items 935, 937, as well as our regular agenda items 941, 942, 943, 944, and 945 to the end of this afternoon's session. Keelan, is there anything else at this time?
I think we're all set.
Okay, we are adjourned until 2 p.m. October 30th, 2024.
Good to see you, Ann Berryman.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody.